Nuclear weapons are the hammer of U.S. imperialism. Threats of nuclear strike have been deployed for decades to sustain racist, colonialist, and escalatory U.S. presence power, culminating in mass death and risk of global nuclear annihilation. Gerson, some of the U.S. nuclear arsenal to the base for U.S. government the challenges Washington is trying to wrath of the world's over the U.S. empire and the democracy, systemic governments have prepared and threatened nuclear attacks to maintain the overall U.S. estimated visit the repeated wars and more than 200 military interventions ever. Has been seen as a way to maintain social peace essential to U.S. superior essential to a culture of dominance and empire daily. Forces Americans amplify Americans see themselves as the worst police and people are building great numbers racist to reinforce economies have seen an endless war experience with the first casualties fighting in the Balkans, Greece, Haiti, Syria to restore oil emission and tail rhetoric. How democracy was used to monopolize in the midst of this. Washington told them and enforced remain the bomb recommended the Pentagon modernize its nuclear response. Cheney policy described dangerous movements of the doctrine named with resistance. This was a euphemism for containing China, which Cheney brought full circle dominance to U.S. power for so far exceeded any rivalry yet believed to compose the enrichment instead of soliciting opinion Bush. Nations were therefore against us against what it is to make consequences of isolation and devastation, so shock on military attacks and extended occupations, prevented attacks from war to else and the other in the U.S. to be destroyed and committed to aggression was unprecedented. Followed collapse of the Soviet Union. U.S. leaders continued out a nation by carrying a big stake. Despite abolition committees, peace movements, U.S. continued to rely on threats of nuclear attack to reinforce U.S. power. Does must be also by U.S. nuclear terrorism. Press U.S. nuclear ban treating nuclear with nuclear texture, policy, close to nuclear cataclysm. U.S. nuclear consciousness was rolled out by laws about loose nuclear machines used for manufacturing and manipulation, right? Political coverage of mobilized Americans for regime change reports and revolution change Bush mobilized. U.S. terror rock with lies about United States and nukes and illustrates talk about weapons common belief. He said as long as the good guys have the rest of weapons, there's little to worry about. Scholarship marked by fascination with scientists who won the rights to so-called series the dangers of police nukes kept in the dark about the history of U.S. preparations to capture and initiate nuclear wars. U.S. citizens often their role in preventing nuclear war to ensure communities of probably and U.S. empire extends from Mexico to the Middle East from real debate posing greater challenges to deploying conventional military. It would be impossible to maintain military commitments to not persist Islamic West's military environment. Give us our confidence with our intents against China and Russia. Other presidents directed threats against our two nations as military action change. There's a continuity reliance on nuclear attacks to maintain the empire. Miscalculation, accidents, and incomplete information made nuclear use inevitable. Only pure luck has prevented detonation, field war, Plavidus, and Wellington 20 U.S. planning is to extend his arsenal. The luck is the main reason what would a catastrophe stations the main stockpiles, fairly narrows control historical examples that are mine. That message here, mass accidents resulting in close to detonation, close calls for the U.S. and Soviet Union, failed membership, led leaders' decision that could lead to death space and incomplete or false info. We avoided nuclear war because we've been lucky things. Could easily go in a different direction, even in cases outcomes for achieved with no help from control practices in Gulf War 1. Safety is to prevent a bomb. The only reason monthly megatons explosion now take place because two players have been separately, not simultaneously, destruction of variables that have nothing to do with control. The result is out of our hands. Like in nuclear history is determining the world is fortunate, betting another half century with nuclear weapons, but no explosions is betting on like what we're not simply because it hasn't run out yet. The impact of nuclear use outweighs all the risks, disarmament as possible and effective, but only if there is broad advocacy and awareness of the risk of nuclear weapons. Russia 22 consequences of nuclear war would be devastating. Much more should and can be done to reduce the risk detonation of a single weapon can end millions of lives immediately. Larger devastation will follow nuclear radioactive dust spreads up nuclear payment with serious consequences. Cities attacked by nuclear missiles, create firestorms from cars up, cities spreads around the planet, block its sunlight cannot be reentering the planet, cause nuclear payment for production would fail, and billions would start to destruction. Second to the battlefield will be endeavored to do with them, and we will be with them entirely, which remain high disarmament as possible. The U.S. are start to kill billions. Nuclear war might be hindering these final balances, vulnerable to accidents, bomb condemning and accidental fossil and contributing nuclear retaliatory countries. Keep weapons on launch or warning parties need to be controlled. This is not the case. Technical errors or accidents escalating conflict between nuclear parts would also accidents or irresponsible lead relate to detonation. Recently, to see our full nuclear weapons are removed better. Understanding will help us easily ensure the same goal. Russell's head movement pressure. Pursue goal of nuclear disarmament efforts were successful. This cause loss of tension. Some dangers are exaggerating nuclear weapons. The opposite is humanly hard to give conflict without this is a big mistake. We have to see the risk of high ways to reduce the goal. Has to be the humanity never intended to use the most destructive tech ever developed. Placate projection to engage in the empire provides no vision for the future. Only by netting into nuclear efforts can we begin to diminish the racial and colonial violence produced by nuclear weapons. Stream is 23. Nuclear weapons were radar. Thinking the fact that they exist will recap. More having that we can fathom the bombs to hold the racial contrast of nuclear meeting slow violence. Distribute humanity poor people, crowd and chasing people, poor people, women and receive the least benefit. Now, most exposed to harm black cities nuclear to protect by service with estimated 80% of African American population wiped out in conflicts suffering directly caused by the own history, struggle, and military, nuclear culture, suspicion, systematized racial hate, women, and institutions, politics, paralyzed death, and the soldier, the precariat, and others, they bomb, creates nuclear necropolitics, and bombs, a weapon of national hate, torture, plenty fail. They consider consequences of nuclear war deterrence as no substitute for long-term plenty of forbidden causes have failed to confront institutions while convincing accusations of their complicity. They fail to grasp the long-term effects of terrorist people of color, systems of nuclear weapons, opposed to space to temporality of the apocalypse, racism, and nuclear threats are components of the same politics system eradicating one purpose, greatly should diminish the terror of the other, decomposing empires. Companies no vision for the future, conflict can be broken by violation of empire. Peoples will be made dismantle the bomb. Thus, the plan: the United States should disarm its nuclear forces, sustain public pressure, geared towards disarmament works. The strength of the movement comes from the diversity of its tactics. Paragraph 23. Not every abolitionist needs to throw a blood on the Pentagon. The power of the movement came from the breadth and diversity of tactics. Analysts, lobbyists, Greenpeace activists, women, shark, peace, European feminists, Catholics, nuclear, industrial complex, starting to seek the movements, establish intent and alternative research entities to counter government misinfo, attract activities, and disseminate analysis, regards to organize against facilities to deliver every congressional district in the nation. Activists track down secret shipments and mobilize block trains or strikes. They fill jails, march, and tail to change convenience of these plotting to be prison magazines. These are trust activities led up to added up to the survival of species. Continuing to scenes dependent of the movement and to the streets. West domains and politicians. East and West responded. Unilateral disarmament is key. Prevents the causes of nuclear modernization and paves the way for global efforts. 321 U.S. has a particular responsibility to use cooperation to disarm such administrations felt a little responsibility silence in favor of military bills and overseas aggression. U.S. behavior constantly increase threats to national security decision making prefer to counter threats that help create rather than consider alternatives such as self-fulfilling prophecy. Military generate atmosphere of fear and uncertainty. Justify expansion policies. U.S. policies severely impeded progress on disarming quest for dominance provokes nations into taking the bomb threat. by supporting programs with allies. U.S. potentially increase the possibility someday someone will use things by extremists conquer to design China never shall understand and purge its measures which nuclear deterrence place war using unilaterally fulfill obligations. Its obligations to eliminate own arsenal and create conditions for other entities are able to unilateral actions implemented first. Progress make it easier to adopt cooperative multilateral measures. Efforts require challenging deep rooted institutions and MIT supporters of permanent war economy. Successfully resisted efforts. U.S. disarmament solves and re-energizes moving superior through events and in 21. We can eliminate most destructive weapons if we want systems complex. Set off for immediate state intentionally by malfunction. Cyber attack or brady trigger. Counterattack with a world consequence. Starting to attack of Harrison 80s ahead of Cold War. Reagan and Gorbachev negotiated agreements with the U.S. and the Soviet Union disarmed 40,000 expanded and Putin agreed to discuss this is hopeful, but more see divided by himself declare he will eliminate nukes. Would it be widely approved in Grand China spirit already negotiated agreements and verification protocols? The apps call to generate discussions on nuclear disarmament is the first step to making those changes a reality. Accent 21 nuclear arms states utilize processes to maintain control traditional species regulated by those that business upon opposing requires creativity about how changes may work toward nuclear ban activities outside of institutions develop agreements to bring government on board if this is taking place within pre-existing processes or institutions of way. Have been tried on alternative forms of local alternative states to change values, definitions, and laws to take institutions or indigenous, queer, and feminist scholars interior who is a subject critique and total frameworks colonial regimes and heteropatriarchal legacies accountable. Pragmatic policy reforms are only successful when they involve specific goal-oriented approaches. Participating in strategy development and learning to draw connections between disparate goals is key. Like 13 excitement. Eliminate seconds with academic creativity as limits with skills movements against esteeming themselves against resistance. There's nothing automatic about problems solving how. While people strategies are organizing by tactics and reach allies, use resources can be enhanced by training students in parity and understanding community for security and field. This is a strategic area, a different path that require students with more skills. We need a broader array of tactics and have to be ready to move anyone side to clarify the strategic questions on violence and role played. Scenarios that result in unified effective action when we understand how separate struggles are connected. It helps us create broader, stronger, more interconnected movement. The anti-nuclear movement against the largest corporations in America and one that movement delay construction which raise costs and pledges to doubt in the public mind about safety campaigns associated with democratic decision making through practice. Specifically, the presentation of nuclear threats cultivate the politics of vulnerability necessary for global crises. Total 17 nuclear desolations fall into disruptions suggest the vulnerability of humans that cannot be integrated functions by embracing and exploiting this politics of vulnerability becomes an opportunity to build alliances and contest space of thinking and damage for the global nuclear establishment of 6 humanity was held in common above political and national difference. Literature called of shared notions of human identity. We may disagree with nuclear bombs, while the problem they represent an accelerating challenge beyond the destruction of nationalism, politics, and vulnerabilities. Important activism in nuclear literature just means to be acknowledging the vulnerable whose face with other ways be passed over technologies, problematizing categories of which the human was understood even if free physiological contamination mind could be haunted by nuclear anxieties. To refuse to separate systems of oppression, understanding the nuclear industrial complex opens pathways for challenging related systems. Devoted 21% industrial complex determines right from the military industrial complex during the Second World War. The U.S. economy and defense grew intertwined the Cold War introduced proliferate nuclear weapons as our Sony State and corporations interested in inflicting nuclear policies to the advantage of weapons manufacturers, not national security through nuclear weapons and persisting unrelated with industry or private for the same iron triangle abolishing both the president and military industrial complexes requires understanding the nuclear weapons complex structures and encourage the government to kill the states spend public funds without accountability. Both our economic trains Americans really benefit from those coding similarities and unapologetic exploitation of people of color, namely women, indigenous, and black women, largely like political exposure. A quarter of Navajo women had radioactive metal in their bodies from any money to industry said every American black and indigenous women are particularly susceptible to their pervasive class. The government continues to prioritize profitability over safety. They sacrifice the most vulnerable to uphold the facade of security. We must demand accountability and amplify the voices of black and indigenous victims. We must consistently listen to and learn from black and indigenous activists. The PSC and MSC are criminal will post, but not when greater than the power of the people. Security studies are based on racist and Eurocentric premises that disavow non-Western interests, resulting in nuclear apartheid that allows Western states to coerce and manipulate the global South. Only complete global disarmament can solve. Chung 14 security studies hits regarding issues of weak states consider collecting security around great power politics underpinning by Eurocentric and research assumptions nuclear weapons present tremendous access to the safety and security of the world. The NPT mission complete global nuclear disarmament. The extension of the NPT continues to legitimize nuclear weapons in the hands of P5, allowing them to engage in vertical nuclear proliferation, nature perpetuates knowledge of colonial violence, oppression, and inequality, democratization, NWS and NWS, such nuclear apartheid, inequalities, inequities, institutionalized, legitimized through treaties of resistance to domination, and legitimacy, legitimized by levels such as rogue states or terrorism supported, lack of rationality of other states, particularly revolutionary regimes, is supposed to explain why they cannot be trusted with nukes anxiety or proliferation after the Cold War for realizations rest on great powers, while interests of weak states are completely ignored. One-sided and Eurocentric logic of plain proliferation or reproduction of Cold War thinking. These ideologies arbitrarily assign rationality to great powers to manage proliferation, changing the list described. It's racialized and Eurocentric liberal approaches are equally Eurocentric, defining the West in ethical terms and discourse. It's deeply entrenched, dividing the world into states that can be trusted, and those who do not nuclear apartheid is just fighting the liberal mindset, liberal ideology, legitimizes domination over the global South. Iran has been demonized to rogue state North Korea, perceived to pursue alien objective normative anathema to the civilized international system. These Eurocentric and racist assumptions have led to double standards and inequities, while Iran suffered debilitating sanctions. Israel will remain free from oversight. Current non-proliferation regime serves to perpetuate logics of colonial violence and inequality. The only solution lies in global disarmament. A world free of nukes will take commitment, beginning with the U.S. Global disarmament is the only future where we can achieve a peaceful and secure world free of colonial dominance and inequality.
Are you good?
Mm-hmm.
Alright. Are nuclear weapons in the U.S. built off of U.S. enslavement and the genocide of indigenous people?
Yeah.
Cool. My next question is, Plantex, you said United States should disarm its nuclear forces. Who is the United States?
Well, we think that the United States government has authority to restrict nuclear weapons, i.e. they have literally the nuclear weapons in their hands.
Okay, so material enactment of the plan is the federal government is the actor that disarms nuclear forces.
Right, but our argument is that the only way that that would occur is by social movements that pressure the government to do so.
I get you, but you're saying U.S. All right.
Yeah.
Cordal 17 evidence, bottom of it says that we should learn from black and indigenous activists. Which ones have you learned from?
The Cordal evidence?
Yeah, it was Cordal.
Sorry, I have like a different version of the one I see. I'm pretty sure the
You said,
Devoted
like-
evidence is the one that says that.
Oh, Devoted, or whichever one. It says, yeah, Devoted 21, bottom of it says, we must consciously listen to and learn
Yeah.
from black and indigenous activists. Which ones have you highlighted in the 1AC?
So Devoted is an indigenous activist. Our argument here is that black and indigenous women in particular, but in general, indigenous populations and black populations have demanded nuclear disarmament as a means
Okay, but it's like,
sort of correcting for the...
but it's like Devoted, like in this evidence is not saying like listen to me. I feel like they're saying
No,
it's like
agreed.
listen to black and indigenous people, like activists broadly. So
Yeah.
it's like what other ones or
I mean,
which
there
other
are a
ones?
ton of historical examples of black activists protesting nuclear bomb.
But like
Paul
which ones?
Robeson, Duke Ellington, Martin Luther King, Zora Neale Hurston.
Okay,
Those
so
are
it's
just
like
a
a
few.
lot of them like advocated, you know, anti-nuclear advocacy,
Yeah.
but they all had different variations of what their political orientation was. How do you like sort through those within this like call for abolition?
Well, part of our argument, and this is sort of substantiated by the Lakey evidence, is that goal-oriented politics is good, and we should sort of combine the different ways that people view politics in order to all push for something like nuclear disarmament.
Okay, the 1AC Chang 14 evidence
Mhm.
talking about security studies is built off of like racialized constructions
Mhm.
of other people. How does the 1AC hold accountability mechanisms for when all these different like political identities between MLKs or Neil Hurston, like let's say one of them messes up, says something racist towards another group, what does the app do in that scenario?
Is your argument about what would happen in like a disarmament
Yes,
rally?
yes.
Yeah, I mean, there are a ton of different ways that movements hold accountable different actors. We think that, you know, a discussion about those accountability mechanisms is probably desirable, but we don't defend a specific mechanism for punishing people.
Okay,
who
some
are
of
mediated.
your 1AC authors say that it's like sustained fear of nuclear war is good
Mhm.
to mobilize public support. What
Yeah.
are some empirical examples of success because of that sustained
Yeah,
fear?
the Berrigan evidence, the Street evidence, the Metzenhofen evidence all cite the peak of the Cold War, 1982, is a
Okay,
specific date.
1982, the
Yeah.
biggest thing was like we got the INF treaty and then the US rolled it back.
Well, that was not 1982, I don't think, but our argument is that the fear surrounding nuclear weapons is what mobilized people to take to the streets and demand from their governments reductions in nuclear weapons.
I'm getting it set up right now, but while I'm fixing this stand, it's gonna be 2 and then the advantage.
Do you have something you're sending out, or have you sent it out?
I do. It'll be sent in a couple seconds. It should be sent.
If you need a little bit of mine, you can take mine, but
Just
eventually you
before
should
the
fill
toys,
up your,
yeah.
yeah.
Did everybody get the document?
I don't have it yet.
Okay. Did it just like not show up for anybody yet?
Oh, I got it.
It's open.
I was the last one to get it.
You're all
Your
good.
speech last round too, so
I'm so sorry.
my computer is participating.
You're good. Take your time.
There it is.
That good?
Mm-hmm.
Assuming everybody's good.
Yep.
Start in a couple seconds. We would like to honor the following earnest bookings to everyone: R. Russell, Monty Taylor, Ralph, Gardner Chavez, Enrico Fermi, George Warner, Reed, Lloyd, Quarterman, Lawrence, and William Notaro, Delaney, Benjamin Scott, Jasper Jeffries, all the other black scientists and chemists that worked on the development of nuclear weapons. We'd like to honor Malcolm X, Martin King, MLK, Langston, Hughes, Maria Anderson, Lorraine Hansberry, Ernest Harris, Walter White, Barry, Russell, Paul Robeson, and all the other black anti-nuclear actors that saw an equal and just world without violence. We'd like to also honor Edmond Lewardu, Hotep X, Benjamin Hagel, Julissa Jackson, Latonya, Sarge, Dr. Tolson, Ed Lee, Will Maker, Daryl Burns, Everett Matthews, Brandon, Sean, Treese, Marvin, Amber, Kelsey, Tiffany, Dylan, Knox, Cameron, Ward, Stephen, Bailey, Kofi, Sam, Nate, Edward, Devin, for Nando, Kirkman, Jory, Knox, Nagio, Evan, Victoria, 3DR, DSRB, Candace, Stacey, Holly, Rashid, Campbell, Ryan, Watson, Elijah Smith, Lisa, Hampton, Devon, Murphy, Nick, Dave, Leonardo, Brooke Kimbrough, Coram Robinson, Watchers, White, Agent Butler, and y'all young black debaters at the state in separate hotels and Whitey's during segregation on Black History Month. The Bosch should go to the team that best provides the best message for providing black liberation. It requires both sides to present arguments against the black radical tradition. They have not met the burden of honoring Black History Month. One is urgency. Texas is a unique site to uplift black voices from the history of lynching, enslavement, patrol, Jim Crow, to police brutality, mass incarceration, and Governor Greg Abbott's book ban to essentially use debate as a competitive space to test resistance strategies against anti-blackness in nuclear spaces. Second, it's going to be a rager from activists to scientists. Black people have been erased from the topic that eventually won the behind the project really not the back really intimately overcoming the experience of the black scientific hero development, nuclear bomb, and the black communist scientists and girl lab and the task with plutonium production room girl during the war, black worker face discrimination, negative inferior living condition for food services, stores, restaurant, earnings, Wilkin, research, neutral energy, and when the team returns to the Oak Ridge, the William left behind because he was black and black science cool, and what's our Molly Taylor, after having interpreted from me, George, winner, me, like, women, and learners, but not get the images, cause the justice, Wilkin, and the position, every human not to use the bomb in the best way to show people please the bomb with the best boy, Wilkin, belong to Howard Clark, and the other back on the generation, black scientists, black, man, the right behind the change of course of war and the signs of American politics, and 3 reparations, the history of unfairness to black communities, both inside and outside of space, regarding epistemological acts of disruption during Black History Month. That's Jackson, 2080, white person, black community, one of the affairs of black Americans, responsibility around African history, and live the president, the racist during the month was able to start a conversation about it, but you know what the mission we can work to black Americans already done where they're other not we can see the opportunity, honor to not neglect it, the black really make it back players, I'm like, no one is other than honor, there's another white thing that's often framed the criminal for reparation, American history, passing for the white Spanish wants to praise, the sort of act like somebody those often to praise, even if it was just for 28 days. Next off, we would like to start the speech with a poem from Lucille Clifton, a black poet, author, educated parent, and Catholic maternal. The title of the poem will be called New Bones. We will wear new bones again, leave these rainy days, break through another mountains of sun and honey time. Words buzz over us like bees in the splendid new bones. Other people think they know how long life is, how long strong life is. We know, James 21, we seek a new bone, the abolition, working here in the political structure, I talk about revolution, structure, the fact that they have to get in with the fact employees who expect them to believe in the right abolition in the form of incarcerated person, black communists in the long-term media about the new bones, and the repetition of the mandate we have to wear new bones, and this way to me, how they get them out of the source analysis, will practice and analysis, to the constructive when I'm black community, will not be declared if you do not recognize the intellectual working class that academic authority, unified during the academy, identify abolition, abolition, people know who are organized, tell me about what they want to say, academically, I'm moving the million and the jury, pack in the irony, abolition, no democratic, and I'm talking about the part of people and house people, what is abolition, and you need not to hear people when you speak to them, when you speak to them, we like what we need, but I'm not just talking about the little cop that ass and I sent out the FAA, FBI and ICA, and the state of our African economy, living in the belly of the beats, and the person only have a really informing the good judge, the source of intellect for other people who die first and die poor. Thus, the alternative is rejected when they see in favor of return to the source that we some people should abolish U.S. nuclear force. In this debate, it's not about the desirability, when they see desirability, but about Emory's inconsistent embodiment of the one you see. Abolition carries a long tradition, found that black and brown people that resulted in their death. The signifier of the unruly rival can never leave George James, Frederick Douglass, George Jackson, but Emory signifier of traditional teams switching their style to accommodate the casing, the counter, protecting two abolitionists thought. Not only is it parasitic, but also fundamentalizes the people who have to put their lives on the line. The one you see had the Emperor's Revolution for the sake of abolition, professionalize the movement, and the infinitely aggressive political stance that never conclude with the lead to the same current neoliberal order that James Tony academic abolition on something had like a discussion in incarcerated local activists and they forming the Elaine Brown when he's assuming not with opportunity documenting you in the film including the prisoner Brown and the Airbus who was with the Republican on the day Davis you know was the genocide leading all the articles no longer about black men fought like black game of black men FM inspectors director finished to maintain the world U.S. propaganda system in the university started Davis who was not so quick and confident over FDA stable by white liberal hedge on Davis this is what they included the converting with the line Davis with all white jury in the black revolution and so support in the conservative back in the U.S. analysis go with like in the lab who said that the really people's victory next or elected war on the minute for popular abolition minimize the agency of the U.S. political prisoner Russian tape while they promote public outlines to be abolition revolutionary table revolutionary struggles and abolition is a used form of counterinsurgency that uses revolutionary figures. This is civil incorporation. The revolution gets continually put down to mean that the alternative is the rejection of the AF in favor of war. That's Troutman. And so 23 the effort organizer responsible for bringing the name of recommend the constitution circulating and take capital booze. This is the metric is that white power attention making the movability keeps the capital balance and city recognition and politics who what makes the back on the this is right. The really increasing radicalism and the we want to increase the lack of political and active and no right to the talk. The physical content problem that the visual and emphasize resistance strategy reduce the takeover imperialism and invested in favor of poverty and moving that specifically responsibility figure the actions of the conspiracy and for the government the right relationship with the reflective background of political programs on abolition literature and the road. Revolutionary frame quotes the same kind of for war makes activate strategy actually from the capability meant to be liberated to be known the fight we have power with black revolution by anything else is referral.
Skip down and go to 1AC rules.
1AC rules said we should be scared of nuclear use because of terrorists. We've inserted behind the proven mean that maintain national security. Really post app that's really 22 I will reinsert the highlight here. One, this is a double turn. Well, 1AC 10 said we should protect racial security studies that you label like terrorism. That's Shang. 17 also insert 3 highlight here because it does it again. And just find counterterrorism results in the racial identity of Muslim people that could die 21 that by the revision for over architects are going to grapple the root cause of the U.S. problem of terrorism in Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Egypt before for Israel military occupation, Palestine, U.S. direct war for Israel activists in Pakistan within.
Put it at Pakistan and then go to the white and non-black thing and then go to case.
Okay, skip that. And white and non-black bodies engage in the study of blackness within a specific body politic that attempts to organize the world knowledgeable through the affective desire of blackness embodiment. That's King 19. I acknowledge that I am white and working together to become an saying extra how the field to acknowledge or represent the side of black body to make rebellion in the movement, make up your feeling and object and study this instrument of violence and apostasy and make the performance appear in anti-racial and action on the part of the white and the researchers in the universe not produce scholars who are interested in producing knowledge for political action and more. So we got eradication, anti-racism, university trained to work against our best selves and social science training intervene upon the improved fields that they just said. The trained to develop impulses and improve the abstract approach human lives. They feel the question how are they intercede or save black rather than the way we not act how black to save them the more than like to become this split to chaos and power back by president by making a new recognize the white body and different turn if white it's supposed to wait with their submission on the ready black body they got to reinforce this guy who wrote the impulse to objectify black life. Go to case now. One will reinsert way recreate anti-black extinction reps all and so here was a majority 17 evidence and there's 2 arguments. One to reject extinction rep it's anti-black that's back enough 19 African American not everything to change the nuclear war whereby they constructed white Americans with a nation as a whole, while other individuals post offices are elected discourse applies the one way to the American definitely different reasons so other Japanese victims white victim American not use Obama white folks in nuclear states will not be universal well that white Americans will be left ghost things instead also represent lane for black survival while technically realize the nuclear attack actually spared a few lives and 2 you're glorifying the hell out of the 80s with racist and homophobic. That's entirely 23 if you told one of the greatest and not many in the life of one of the greatest failure to kill minute that talk on the inclusion of the world probably other issues rather race or they were in the news rather than free white racism will not effect of planning of the study according to King in this bill will because of homophobia the tax study did not to LGBT component and the LGBT collectible and bodies give me a little provide LGBT right military draft nuclear energy user invention global style organizing reacted the top my cause of people to stay away and co-option turns sustained for nuclear war results in budget cuts for domestic programs that kill millions of people of color. Reagan proved that Tanti 23 military bills scared the American we are going to have a nuclear war. Reagan acts of 1 billion increase in defense spending for 1980 at the same time the act or because of 26 billion for the domestic program 3 million Americans have to work in Reagan budget had the greatest minorities working that interest raise power 40% Reagan plus $1 billion nuclear arsenal reduce the ATC food stamp and nutrition health program the family planning of 4% children living poverty free school lunches for eliminated back children for time to grow up welfare and by 1981 47% African Americans lead nuclear war is possible and disarmament is impossible seeing arcanals cheating misford that's correct why disarmament also will properly why nuclear weapon missile he's a high negative delivery in the state with advanced scientific and tech and access to material can stop quickly disarmable reach the impulse without the ability to be sure another day totally disarm and prevent it nuclear power leave is another emergency another way safe within the molecule or other weapon be opposed position to dominate the world nuclear power to maintain security with capability to break black is far too easy. I finished the disarm card. The card I didn't read was the TPNW down, and then I didn't read.
I'll send the mark.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
You got it.
You did send it?
Yeah.
Okay, I can just start if you're good. I'll give you a sec. Yeah.
I'm good. You're good.
Okay. I want to start with the alternative to the critique. It disarms the U.S. nuclear forces, correct?
Yes.
How?
We think that we've made arguments about the ways in which abolition is something that is rooted in the black radical tradition.
Okay.
We think we made arguments for the way in which the ONC and the way it's performed and enacted abolitionism gets inevitably co-opted to recreate the same goals that the ONC is trying to copy.
So what about the alternative avoids that co-option?
Sure, yeah. So we think that rooting ourselves as a return to the source and putting it back in black abolitionists who have paved the way for a conversation like this to happen in the first place is what allows for us to gain the momentum to inevitably disarm U.S. nuclear forces without the risk of the
what is the role of non-black scholars and activists in the
alternative? We think it is to surrender to the chaos of black embodiment. We think the King evidence is pretty good on the ways in which white and non-black scholars actively seek to co-opt and understand it through a body politic, which recreates the same violence that happens in the academy in the first place.
Yeah,
we think only returning to the black source and show and asking the question how the black study saved you, rather how white people can improve it, is what allows for us to avoid the type of violence that happens in the academy, which gets exported into the outside.
What does a disarmament rally look like
once we've returned to the source?
I think, well, I'm kind of confused.
Well, I mean, it's like you've made arguments about why returning to the source and embracing the chaos of blackness means that people could challenge nuclear structures. What is the role of coalitions in this, disarmament rally that happens as a result of the alternative?
The role of coalitions is the surrender to the chaos and black embodiment and stuff. But the second thing about like what they look like, we've criticized your understanding of abolition as a series of non-reformist reforms, and we've instead recharacterized true abolition as an act of war. So it's like instead of trying to persuade public officials or the U.S. federal government to disarm, we would encourage more militant forms of protest.
Oh, okay. What do those look like?
What's up?
What do those militant forms of protest look like, and how did they get rid of nuclear weapons?
It looks like examples of an insurrectionist black working class. We can bring up more examples later. In the context of nuclear disarm, I can't give you like a specific vision because again, not my role.
Sure.
But instead, like it's like the reason there is no specific vision is because it hasn't happened yet.
But we also think it requires starting with the alternative first.
Okay.
Because
I guess
think
just
that would
like
be the arguments for why the return to the source is key to generating the
sure. Absent making demands on public officials, literally, how do we break into the silos using the militant revolution?
Because rather than trying to persuade people that you're never going to persuade, you would rather just overthrow the system responsible for nuclear weapons.
So does overthrowing that system mean overthrowing the United States government?
It would mean, well, remember, we're not saying we fiat or materially resolve anything because it's a question of our orientation towards abolitionist study.
Okay, that's fine. The last question I have is about the Troutman evidence. Does it rely on the premise of Afro-pessimism?
That's a weird ass.
Well, it's not because the evidence says I am an Afro-pessimist. I find Frank Wilderson, Jared Sexton's pieces, persuasive.
Partially, but we don't need to win ontologies to win this debate.
I'm turning it out. Sorry, I didn't know how going.
I did, and it was like 2 seconds out. You're good. You're good. I took no offense. Although if I did, not your problem.
While you're doing that, my cat is having an allergic reaction, so I have to.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
That's great. You should feel this.
Yeah, I know. Don't worry.
I mean, it's not great. It's actually terrible. You know what I mean?
The cat.
My voice has been done in my speeches, so probably good idea to have water.
Jason just randomly handed it to me. You can have this one.
Has it been said?
I have it open and such. I'll start a GoFundMe.
No, it's new.
Oh no.
I think it might be that I'm on, don't have a fast enough internet connection here.
Which one are you on, just out of curiosity? Because I've been switching back and forth.
The Wi-Fi?
The Wi-Fi, yeah. It's the
guest one?
guest one, yeah.
Yeah, that one was faster than EDU Room for me.
For some reason, I cannot connect to EDU Room on the the Texas version. It works for
can't
me
either.
literally everywhere else, but just not here. And that's been true every single time I've come to this campus.
Me too.
Weird. I got it day one,
Who
but
do
it
you
was
think
super
I'm
finicky,
keeping?
so I just switched.
Yes.
Is your cat okay?
Are you good?
Yeah, they take medicine. They just have a funny nose.
Oh, you have a cat sitter?
Hmm?
You have a cat sitter that's okay, good.
I got updates on
Okay.
kittens.
My question is, when you asked if she had a cat sitter, how do you think she found out about it? Do you think the cat called her?
It's what I needed to find her.
I'm not a huge fan of catcalling, but
What?
No? Okay. 2 people left. I'll take it.
2 weeks was already sent. Hopefully your cat is okay.
We're good.
I missed that part.
Everything's working out.
Okay. Otherwise, it's going to be the case, the procedural, then okay.
Just confirm what the procedural is Black History Month.
Yes.
Okay.
No, we're dropping that.
work to perform the purpose of the amendments. One, yes, the movement was white and exclusion. That doesn't mean we can learn from it and improve it. That's very good. Etches and devoted. When I see explicit creases, two, we have no choice but to unite. Rebel who would 21 the only right now to do often right. You didn't see us unite. Rebel who counted as a friend of according to American State because white struggles today. We would do both this and catch up against our best provocation, which eliminate any collections. The strong simply no show coalition, believe for chronicle black people had to be has about coalition because of a psychological equality. You didn't disagree. Chronicle music people when he tries to bring a black policeman from being kicked off the force who takes order skills on people. He would support an independent person would apply. We consider this race interracial organizing debates are played by anti-black supporting friendships. No small matter friendships. Our only option is to have alternate social racial collective action friendships. Look at your hard force. Collaboration is only for those who do not see through colonial forces and either will find ourselves entering the call to make a friends to save fear of nuclear war does not result in budget costs. One, Tony is agreeing of spending on nuclear weapons. We'll concede that trades off with domestic programs. Later, the advertise the entire arsenal. That's very good too. Fear of nuclear war is good. That was explained above. That mobilizes peace movements. We still 70 nuclear powers. Nuclear threats easy feel just matter. The history of nukes is one of the frequent and organized field. The U.S. and other countries have to play to war. What's the world's largest social movements will use globally organized regional leaders back to the big leaders consider these movements many times after Harvard and Nixon came to us talking locally waging nuclear inclination responded by popular technology to use nukes to win small wars. I responded the public was afraid US didn't back off based on a fear of retaliation because the public rate and hawkish by things massive nuclear reason disarm campaigns overseas you retreat adopted disarm company the right to people don't want to think about nuclear the room challenge to want to say danger fear for the most impact of mobilizing people should not be afraid of nukes be activists have to make the case that as long as nuclear weapons exist there's no security. Sorry, that card's long. Disarm cells, one unilateral solves that reduce the ability of the US launching nukes by accident. My spell design, US nuclear accident have historically been common. That's all. But it's to position itself within the process. US nuclear deterrence increases other countries' threat perception makes them unwilling to denuclearize or engage multilateral dialogues, opposition, flaming, negotiating during Cold War. Proof that's Message Street. The Black History Month procedural one. Aren't interpreting negative message for desirably they have anything else is not critical self-serving trades off with material strategy for conflicting structures and act violence struggle. Unfair is not a reason to make debates more unfair. Two, permutation. Do they often recognize the work of Black Americans? Three, tokenization. Previous study is success of Black debaters turns up into fungible objects are being exploited by the Belgian by CSU and precludes efforts making the future of debate more equal. For the frame of Black history most anti-ethical to anti-racism. My Alexander point to the Black community doesn't have their entire history connected to shortest path of the organization's whole focus on state field figures in the past 60 years. So promote from whitewash histories and meaning what's taken about EHM. It wasn't meant to lie. You hope people recognize Black Americans a legitimate integral part of history, educated, moving service levels, not keep thinking about the durable life schools, teach Black history, the need for VHM culture, 5 pro optimism, the notion that all the talent in a single debate is supportable reparation that exists outside of white left is wrong and depoliticizing you. She decides to debate fairly and vote negative if they win the merits of their argument. Anything else is paternalistic. 6, the notion that Texas is unique is bad papers or the lynching slave patrol and police brutality happening across the U.S. again. Framework of balance, desirable to the one you said percent compatible alternative via their prescriptive components preferred one fairness and clash one you the link you lose is infinite unpredictable the negative or you shift the threshold where as the app is bound by trouble action side by collapse negative and depletes any value to gain from engaging academic discourse to exportable you should endorse proposals whose benefits outweigh costs individual debates don't cheat people's mind of capacity depending proposals valuable in every arena first on the Clifton's poem when using the academic sector like debate is good endorse acts use of their trying strategy session weaponize alternative deliberate forms like debate or finding anti-nuclear movements this arguments intellectual program leading creates academic linkages between different resistant techniques optimize the revolutionary practice that's actions in the absent goal orientation all fails to occupy the Paris workers movement improves especially anti-nuclear action parties role playing develop strategy in the day disparate issues that's like to do both endorse the app and return to the source in support of all for the possibility of disarmament combining multiplicity of traditional non-traditional justification key holding legacies accountable that's actions and it doesn't trade off the American 23 we know it's possible we don't improvise the change but remove as a weapon manufactured by the increased market share cost this all never use the photo while doing spins out like distraction while other pessimists are the movement has a waste from mind that didn't still every one progressive don't want to drop everything home to demonstrate have useful pathways give us spotlight in the stockpile is mantle 3 turn we speak with the people where the resistant nuclear weapons from disarmament worthwhile it's not a solution when we see answer the cold black indigenous going to disarm through a coalition including an academic or governmental space essentially allow CSU to be the arbiter of whether we should answer their demands that's very good and devote a return to the source fails one either part do both and not solve because it's in line with eventual disarmament B they can't solve in case it is out of the possession of nuclear weapons that makes it impossible to advance new bones absent disarmament efforts engage the state because they know its ultimate authority over them and protects them with entire military force efforts and down system oppression field that's versus actions and Cornell 2 pigs are voting with someone who see not based in the lit Rex fairness clash and education limiting any ability to weigh offense 3 affirming revolutionary violence fails in order 16 well as a change you could rally as many as the bullshit you're still in the world at 15 drones culture from nothing into the capital of the ever revolutionary enthusiasm this is 1950s zero tackle over solves the problem revolution zero this is a people and music little alternative organization the government political action wind up better will not incredibly sweep and transport and shame but seriously none of us are with the tape of the Americans violence attraction we condone revolutionary violence as drawn and pass along the call conversation father built on absurd hypotheticals to no practical political and the ultimate for this unsexy work of coalitions that this debate is not about the one you see one only we don't switch to comedy we rather have to advocate some use of no each of our universal relation, nuclear abolition. If you have to go to the wiki to adjudicate whether wheeling is not something you should have value to, it's not parasiting, does it? Marginalized people explain like using space like debate is key. The way does not airbrush revolution one. This is just James Way saying commission. That's not the average charge of the least part of the most, the largest weapon for security. They're anti-black and colonial empire extremists. Gerson and Atchison, too, no professionalization. What is he? Relies on history disarmament movements who have been shaped, spearheaded by black revolutionaries. They describe its values, no one right way to exist. That's barrier. And 3 forefronting the balance of nuclear weapons is necessary. Abolishing nuclear industrial complex prerequisite. Understanding iron triangle profit was key to crafting strategy against the prison industrial complex. That's a devoted evidence of abolition is not counterinsurgency. One pragmatic concession of good that serves the nation's best tool to enforce its empire. It's not pat on the back, but a concession citizen of man sets Atchison contributed improvements to the world are possible. The Atchison became the nuclear rebels facing the March Water context of resistance and injustice and alienation for the ability and nations to protect LGBTQIA people and refugees working to fight ones and racial clearance of other systems that are patriarchal racism, militarism, capitalism, also not fake saving aids or assault by approach by things which change you can back must be seen in conflict of meaningful change marker to change to pessimism may be useful describing lack of experience with fails and opening space for political change. In Davies 21, pessimism is useful in any problems somewhat limits and possible political possibilities of power to may reality once centered experience of black people also linking with other struggles of colonization. Two things happen once attention to struggles of others, not showing gravity, black struggle, colonial struggle of the other groups, pessimism, blues, and flow story, white supremacy, from black people stakes of against colonization, close solidarity, reviews, and possible black people that ever benefit from cross-racial solidarity is the power. Black-led movements and solidarity connects multiple struggles and white supremacy both private useful to accomplish political goals better. The terrain even is not perfect. It is better. Mark hard that better.
Drop down to terrorism.
No, there's no double turn, no link. At no point do we say who is a terrorist there. White nationalists who can take the bomb. But our argument is that the U.S. imperial structure creates the conditions for terrorism exists in the bomb. The demarcation, certain actions, and rational justifies the war and terror, which creates instability that's person, which means we solve the terminal impact in penalty evidence because we take out the structure creates condition for the war and terror. The act does not rely on affective desires of blackness embodiment. One, no link. We acknowledge how black studies save us. That was about 2 white people ignoring black studies, except after unbecoming that worse tenet, either colorblindness or engaging white studies, which perpetuates violence, reinforcing anti-black beliefs. 3, the old fails. Time 22 people are don't tend to be in the room secondary seriously defined by deference of epistemology, primary theory rates weights and what the beliefs banks, what for officers are doing, we see some of the protection plan and different ones that the rooms were debating, and even our etiquette doesn't challenge those basic things that to prevent the police from asking makers to denying loans, intimate partner friends, and accessible housing. We put our focus in one place if we don't have a sorting out, we're going to challenge per practice. I question the focus. Refuse to accept the end of the world without a vision, wake up apocalypse. He was 21 apocalypse, not some distant factor or company. The right of the state violence abuse and one function towards global annihilation, focus of future possibility of life and back. Actors can see work of state in the world apocalypse. It's all a massive syndrome. No wait for leaders and trouble to end the world, anti-global violence is trouble to end the world without a vision of new world. The end of the world is not a metaphor debate between pessimists or options at all. Concern the end of the world weight. Their base of reduced silence, crucial discussion. What is to be done? Worlds torn apart by catastrophes or social worlds, more herded worlds.
Are you good? If debaters support people who say slurs, should they lose?
If debaters support people who say slurs? Necessarily, yes, but I think it has to be a more specific explanation. No.
Okay, cool. So
like,
John Streamus is white. John Streamus, who's an officer who extended to 2AC, says or refers to black people as blacks. Does that mean you should lose?
I don't think that necessarily means we lose the debate.
Oh, well, you just said that debaters who support... Wait, hold on. But you just said that people who support authors or people who say slurs should lose. Why now, when you get called out for it, you suddenly... Hold on, no. I didn't, like, this is, like, very important, okay? You have said that if debaters support people who say slurs, they should lose. Why isn't the second that we call you out for it, and you might lose, is the second that you want to say, no, we should not lose?
Okay, I'm going to break this down.
Sure.
I said not necessarily because
no, the answer was quite clearly yes, we agree.
Indicated or slurs and not necessarily...
What? No, the beginning of 2AC Crossings was yes, probably so. Why is it now changing since you've been called out?
Because I'm explaining what constitutes the level of a violation should be voted down.
So why? Okay, if that's the case, why do? Okay, hey, this is important. Why do white people get to determine what is or is not a substantial enough violation to be seen as a reason to reject the team? This feels like a lot of like white tear shit right now. So explain to me now.
But it's a debate in the literature between black people whether people are allowed to say that.
What? Are you black?
No. But
then why do you get to choose that then?
You're citing black authors.
You said it's a debate between black authors. I'm the only black person debating right now. So what gives you merit to be able to discuss that?
We have not said a slur, and we don't think we have endorsed.
No, you didn't. You said, okay, beginning of 2AC Crossings was very clear. I said, if people support people, not say slurs. You said yes. Is that not true?
No, I said not necessarily.
No, that's not what you said. Okay.
There was a full sentence there.
No, that's fine. I'm pretty sure everybody remembers it. It's cool. I want to talk about the argument you said, we speak with the people. What people have you spoken to?
Sure. We think the 1AC Crossix already covered this. How we pull from black and
Okay,
indigenous
pull
people.
and speak to are two different things, right?
Sure.
So what people have you spoken to?
We think we have outlined a lot of black and indigenous.
Outline is
people.
different than speak. We've established this. What people have you spoken to?
This is a metaphorization. We've cited.
So you haven't spoken to anybody.
Not directly.
Okay,
We are-
that's fine. That's all I need to know.
The
That's-
authors we are pulling from, not all of them are even alive. We are pulling on their legacy.
So why do you
Obviously,
get to
not directly
what?
speak with
So
them.
why do you get to commodify them then?
We're
You-
not commodifying them, rather
What?
working off their work. And
You're
answering-
working off their work. That
Yes,
sounds
they
like
are
commodification and
calling
semantics.
coalitions to disarm nuclear forces.
Did these people give you permission to coalesce with them?
They have called for white people to join the movement. Yes.
What? Okay, that's four. Alright, theoretical research team is just pigs.
Yep.
Are you checking any time?
Yeah, starting now. Yeah.
You need to start writing. Procedural. How do you want your tutor to do it? Which is the one where the stream sends.
I'll see. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Start taking the layer on what you want the tutor to do, and then this is. Yeah, that's 1, 2, 3.
You can just walk in front of it. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. Just don't do it during the speech.
Uh, 817. The order is just the critique.
I'm sorry, did you send something out?
Yeah. Emory, did you get it?
I'm good to go.
I know Val's good.
Yep.
Jackie, you good? Sure.
Remember the words of the captain, but turn to Lucio, then we will wear new bones again, and we will be splendid, and we will break out through another mouth, and sun and honey, Sam, when Coretta Scott King convinced MLK to adopt nuclear abolition as a necessary fight against white supremacy and work with the WILPF for peace and freedom, when Lorraine Hansberry used the playwright What Use of the Flowers to discuss nuclear bombs as to white supremacy for Erna Harris being part of the WILPF for Walter White, Frederick, Roxanna, Angela, Ruth Wilson, Gilbert, etc. If you did not know what the poem said, and you took time to sit down and understand that it's all solvency taking place, you are voting negative, so redirect the demands of the way to ask yourself not what has the 1AC done to save black people, but rather how has black studies saved all of us. This is the framing issue for all non-black people. King explains that that non-black and specifically white people must have the humility to understand that they will never always get abolition politics right, and at any risk is to believe that they got abolition politics wrong is a reason to reject the team. The threshold for this debate is not whether or not the link turns case, but whether or not they have presented a misreading of abolition politics. Our interpretation is that the 1AC is a research object who should be held accountable for its epistemic political investments and the consequences of it in the context of black scholarship. 1. Fiat is illusory. Nothing happens when you vote out, which means it's better to examine our relations to the literature read. 2. Creates a revolutionary class where we examine our subjectivities and become better people. The advocacies get distorted for the reason why we bring the advocacy up in the first place, i.e. there are various versions of disarm. Those nuances require an interrogation or epistemic commitments to the liberation of certain people, which makes debate training grounds to be militant against white saviorist politics versus radical politics. Telos focused debate is bad because it avoids these intricacies. 3. That is fair. By definition, we have infinite prep to understand our embodiment to the literature we read. Any claim of unfairness is resolved by prepping after round 4 the foundation of debate. As we know, it is unfair to black and native subjectivity, i.e. the PRL legacies of unfairness that Curtis will get to that Curtis will get to later. Their fairness standards are of you link, you lose. It is not you link, you lose. It is a narrow testing of your defensive abolitionist policies that influences the exportability of it, which will be the link debate. Before the perm, they said the academy is good, but I will answer the perm first. First, rejected the method is functionally competitive. We some people challenges white exclusion that is inherent to advocating for the USF FGA James 17 racial between everybody defending USF as opposed to we as a challenge to white no agenda we either people promote. 2nd, every link is a diss to the perm. 3, compatibility is not desirability, which is revolutionary clash standard above. 4, white people do not get a permutation and do not get to steal the labor that black people do in a method versus method debate because it is not revolutionary to have a permutation in the first place. 5, voting negative vote affirmative solves. They've done abolition top down through the advocacy. We've advocated abolition from the bottom up. Our answer picks good here. 1, real world scholarship. Academics and activists have slang disagreements with one another all the time. Picks are pedagogically useful because they force into theorize on critical scholarship, which prepare students for college, grad school, and to be engaged activists. 2nd, argument, innovation, creative ways to be negative, stimulate debate, and provide a forum for argument refinement and critical idea testing, which is key to interesting, generate debates. Intentional. 1AC writing and infinite prayer solves all the 1AC offense. 3, air negative on theory. Don't reject the argument of the pig is pedagogy valuable. You should weigh the content against their theory arguments, advocacy, and perhaps to choose their advocacy. And first and last speech, they say academy good. First, extended James evidence. Spaces of academia are parasitic on the black radical tradition as in for how we move into space we debate. Our universities model after plantations like Texas, the grounds of stolen land. Nothing about what we do in the space and create discursive value or response to the call of the movements on the ground. But what we can do is completely refuse the logic of saviorism and instead recognize our endowment to the people before us and form the precondition for ethical relationships with black studies, black people, and black debate. That's the first James evidence. It means that the call for the ballot is a form of desirability. The idea that the Winnie has responds to the calls of the people on the ground in a correct manner is a savior logic that mirrors how non-black people engage studies are motivated by academic capital to make black studies better or think that they are the ones to finally make the correct linkage between theory and action and abolition. This is a logic, a productivity that is counter to the black voter tradition and means that voting negative to vote absolves because it short circuits the logic being affirmative, shifts the direction from what have they done to save black people to how have black studies say if then their activism story is which means their activism story is backwards. Their 1AC Berrigan in 23 minutes is an example of this because instead of being militant they say a quote 1AC Berrigan, not every nuclear abolitionist needs to throw blood on the Pentagon, which is the pathologization of the work that abolitionists do on the ground because they say we do it the correct way because we aren't spilling blood. Their next argument was a no trade-off. The link argument is will prove that these links turn the case. They say that they speak what the people know. The link disproves this. They say that it feels impossible because we must engage the state. The alternative is a better method of it. Their next argument was that violence fails. I will extend the airbrushing link here. Pragmatic concessions as per Trotman is premised on a movement building metric that never actually gets a revolution. They constantly push it back in favor of approved metrics like reformist reform that never actually solve black suffering. Trotman is an organizer who has been on the ground in Atlanta, the stock cop city, and grew tired of this abolition symbols, i.e. people often attach their abolition to revolutionary figures like Davis as per their 1AC Atchison evidence, which is a form of counterinsurgency because the iconography of the favorites of abolition always become a black elite that quells revolutionary struggle, i.e. Angela Davis is forcing Elaine Brown to be quiet over allegations in the Black Panthers. We must return to the roots of abolition and revolutionary violence, i.e. Black Panthers, Frantz Fanon, Kwame Ture, etc. The 2AC's understanding of abolition is based in non-reformist reform, i.e. the idea that we can hold policymakers accountable by demanding reductions via state demands, and that what we need to do is create proper languages is to convince elites to come onto our side. This is a professionalization of abolition politics that erases the roots of abolition, which were rooted in revolution, i.e. the Black Panthers holding shootouts with the cost on 110th to 120th Street, slavery abolitionists creating rebellions until they got their way, George Jackson orchestrating prison breakouts, etc. Our James 20 evidence gives the example of former Panthers like Elaine Brown criminalizing Black Panthers in prison because she needed to save face, because she needed to win elections and look not professional in the university. The AF obviously continues this logic because it promotes reformist abolition that sustains white liberal hegemony and sidelines working class revolutionaries who champion abolition better than Davis ever could. Before I answer any the line by line, I'm going to answer the Hewitt evidence that was on case. You can cross-apply the answers here, calling him Stokely Carmichael in the evidence as a voter because that was the example of when he was in SNCC. When he realized that SNCC was not doing enough because it was only appealing to non-reformist reforms, he changed his name to Kwame Ture and joined the Black Panthers. You dead naming him as a form of whitewashing his activism. It shows a fixation on a particular type of politics that demonizes the same black person and for becoming more militant is an independent reason to reject team because it shows the whitewashing of history. The ontology arguments group all of them. It is a gut check of 1AC cross-sex. U.S. nukes and broader security logics are built off slavery and genocide of black and indigenous people, which means security is built off anti-blackness. It is a precursor to get forced labor and new minerals like uranium to create the basis for U.S. to be the basis of security politics. Rebuttal the security politics. We don't have to win a Wildersonian ontological claim. We just need to win that their specific calls for coalition and abolition are bad in this space. Their next argument was the answer to counterinsurgency. Already proved how they were counterinsurgency via the links I just extended above. I will extend the terror link here because they mishandled it. Their only answer was just, we didn't say who is a terrorist. Our argument is that you should not trust two white people when they say, hey, we did not say who is a terrorist. The Rosers 22 evidence is available within national security understandings of who is a terrorist, i.e., quote, there is the risk of nuclear terrorism possibly after a terrorist organization steals weapons. A quote, an escalating conflict between nuclear powers, but also a terrorist could lead to a detonation of nuclear weapons. You should refuse to understand that they were referring to domestic terrorists, i.e., white terrorists in the U.S. because that is the entire reason why the distinctions exist in the status quo in the first place. I.e., people like Kyle Rittenhouse or Dylan Roof are labeled white terrorists, not just terrorists generally, because the label of the terrorists without referring to white terrorists specifically is what allows the terrorist and that moniker to be placed based on the Muslim people that are the one in the evidence we read says that this type of rhetoric justifies things like the war on terror that caused interventions in the Middle East. They say that they saw this terminal impact. They obviously don't, because we did not send nukes in the Middle East. We sent conventional weapons. We bombed Syria. We bombed Afghanistan. We bombed Iraq, etc. Not with nuclear weapons. Conventional weapons. Disarm only lowers the threshold for conventional use, which means that they do not solve the terminal impact. It is a double term with the 1AC Chang evidence that says that we should reject racist security studies that puts the label of terrorism onto other people, because it is what justifies violence in the first place. There's no way they can get out of it, and means that voting negative to vote affirmative solves, because our form of abolition would never call other people terrorists in the first place. You have to give a lot of grace in order for Emory to get out of this link, but obviously you shouldn't do that because of the work I already did. Now the King evidence for the answers to the King evidence was just a bunch of arguments that in the end just boil down to deference bad. First, deference is good. The form of deference that we do says that you should surrender to the chaos of black embodiment to understand that the world is cohered through anti-blackness, and that only by surrendering to the cause of anti-blackness, i.e. to end this current world in favor, i.e. abolish this world in favor of another one, is what allows us to cohere our demands to be able to achieve black liberation in the first place, i.e. the reason Stokely Carmichael changed his name to Kwame Ture is to realize as the end of this world, the abolition of this one or the envisioning of another. It is specifically what mobilizes people like Vincent and Tani to dedicate his life studying black anti-nuclear activists. It is the reason why Stefano Harney writes books with Fred and Modin about the undercommons. It is the reason why people in debates such as Sam Gustafson was such a baller white Afro pessimist with Gio Liriano, because he dedicated himself to learning black studies and then being able to articulate it in the correct manner. That means that we are internally turning the argument about empathy inside coalitions. The reason these people are able, the reason these non-black people are able to become good faith actors for black liberation is because they understood that they themselves as non-black people do not have a role in understanding the leadership of movements, and that instead what they should do is surrender to the calls that blackness calls onto them. It means that any argument that Curtis extends in the 1AC about how coalitions in the status quo fail and the way that they have defended them, we have internal link to it, and it means the alternative solves it without having to do Emory's affirmation of abolition.
Can we take a second to prep?
Yeah, sure.
Do you agree with that? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
And then I'll just line up.
Okay.
Cool.
9:48.
Thank you. You're quick with the start, but you're quick with the stop too.
Actually, I had this a second longer, but I'll take it. Good for cross-ex?
Mm-hmm.
Sure, let's talk about the alternative. As far as I understand it leads to disarmament. I know we kind of covered this in 1AC cross-ex. I kind of want to understand more of how we get there. How do we disarm nuclear weapons?
Again, it's not our role to understand how we get to disarmament, but instead of a telos-driven politics, it's the process by which we get there. We've said the alternative is to surrender to the chaos of black embodiment, and we think that is the key internal link to understanding better calls to disarm.
Okay. Our role, is it ever to engage in these discussions to add value to how can we disarm? How
this
can
is
we perform these methods?
this is an example of that discussion. You forwarded abolition politics. We on the negative have said that the way that you have forwarded it is bad. This is an example of the discussion of what should disarm look like. We've said your form of disarm is bad, ours is better because it's phrased through we some people instead of United States first, but also for all the other links extended.
So, okay. your form of disarmament, can it ever act upon the state? Can
We
it
think
ever act through academia?
it does not act upon the state, it acts against the state.
How so?
For the alt explanation, like it's like instead of relying on examples like Angela Davis or even there's part of the insert highlighting where you rely on people like MLK, for example, we would instead align ourselves with a more militant form of black abolition that aligns with things like the shootouts that the Black Panthers had with the police on 120th Street. There were other examples I listed, but I'm kind of blanking
Okay.
right now.
The ontology debate, we agreed that racism structures the way our nuclear weapons are deployed. Why does that mean ontology necessarily structures it?
Because that's all we have to win. Like, we don't have to win that the world is like irredeemable, as like Wooderson says, but just that the current world right now is structured through anti-blackness. If we think that you have engaged in an anti-black reading of abolition, then you should vote negative.
Okay, sure. What does surrendering ourselves, like the bottom of the explanation in the 2NR of the King evidence, what does surrendering ourselves to the chaos look like?
Well, so there were 3 examples I gave that don't all require one direction, but it all shows a surrender to like black studies that forces non-black people to realize that their role is not to be the leaders of movements, but instead to aid in black liberation. Vincent Ntandi is a researcher into anti-nuclear advocacy that holds consortiums with black students to like understand the history of black anti-nuclear advocacy. Stefano Harney writes about the Undercommons. Sam Gustafson was a person in debate, Iowa debate specifically.
Yeah, no, all those people are people who have learned from like black abolitionists or black debaters, etc., and have participated in the space. We have brought black scholarship. I kind of don't understand what the distinction is. Like, how does one
Like, the
fully...
distinction is the link debate. Like, we think you've read abolition wrong.
Okay.
And we think that these people have a better experience, like, surrendering themselves to black studies.
Sure. The alternative, the PIC's argument, the PIC is out of what exactly? I just want to clarify.
Like, YouTube reading abolition, because you read it wrong.
Okay. I have to send these cards out. I'm doing that right now, but while I'm doing that, it's gonna be the procedural and then case.
These are the case.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're right.
Tanya's asking me what HP should do tomorrow for debate practice.
See what happens when you're an absent coach, bro?
I forgot to lesson plan.
You don't lesson plan.
Have you sent it yet?
Sorry, I'm like putting them on the doc, I swear. I can like
Putting
turn.
them in the doc? That's
Yeah.
part-time.
Okay, I can take part for that then. How much time we got?
8:19.
Okay. 8:19.
Varsity should continue to prep for
8:10 sending it.
And the next LA and DL tournament, novices should work on mini debates with the state's counterplan.
Are they doing the inequality topic?
Yeah.
Is that high school or middle school?
High school.
High school.
Okay, it should be sent.
You stopped it at what time?
8:10.
Also, I think these are,
I don't know.
maybe not. I was like, I know you asked for 2 waters. I see 2 waters.
No, those
Let's
are
see.
just there.
Whoops.
You're probably there all night.
Okay.
So you seem
I'm gonna have to take one of those.
Do you want it now?
That'd be great, actually. Thanks.
Yeah.
See, that's allyship. Come on now.
We got a little Devin Cooper comments.
Oh, R.I.P. Okay, that's fine. Why is my doc?
Oh, the Alexander stuff.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's kind of funny.
I think his docs or his comments look because of my doc. It's fine. Okay. We all get in the back? Emory? Diego?
Yeah.
Okay. Debaters and anti-black spaces cannot be separated from U.S. history and nuclear weapons. Black debaters will have to stay at different hotels. Black teams have to constantly receive high-point loss in the form of paternalism policies are steep and inhibiting space around the school. Critical methods of debate that disproportionately target black people, white, and non-black debaters dread walking into the anti-black debate center. If you do not think this space is anti-black, you are actually tripping on Black History Month. The vows you go to the team that provide the best liberation for black people for best method of black liberation to requires both sides to present arguments counsel to the black argument or you not met the burden of honoring Black History Month. The counter-interpretation links all our offense show that Emory is unwilling to engage in black history in order to observe a white model of the space that racist black debate with the black history in order to hide the violence of revolution scholarship. No trade-off debating about strategies is good and for the better material action on our interpretation, but also they don't get fairness. Drop that unfairness to non-black people during the Black History Month is good. That's the Jackson evidence. Black History Month will always flow fair than non-black people because it's subconscious racist racial feelings about their non-black subposition under attack. Honoring Black History Month, the form of representative judgment that forces non-black competitors and tends to be reflexive about the racial anxiety and promotes disruptive act of white extend our benefit. One is urgency. Texas is a unique site to uplift black voices from the history of lynching, slave patrol, Jim Crow, etc. And Governor Abbott's book and essentially used Texas and debate as a good space to resist strategies anti-black and Greg Abbott was one of the first state people to sign legislation banning critical race theory in Texas means that standing on our affirmation Black History Month in this space is uniquely key. Even though you don't think that voting negative can crescendo and stop the CRT ban, it does signal that you, the educators, stand with Black history and is good. Second iteration for active scientists, black people have been erased from the topic. Drop that none of their evidence of Wayne named a single black activist or scientist to prove that we've honored people's name, but they haven't mean that the Wayne should be held to the same standard during Black History Month, during the stand against solidarity against CRT ban, the white nationalism inside of and outside of this debate. 3 reparation, balance form reparation that all black debaters experience and the black in this space use the white judge had a unique role to honor Black History Month all the time. You told black debaters the codes that your career that their critical stances does not belong in space all the time. You walked out around feeling guilty for potentially voting down black debaters and holding the double standard. We're not required to solve 5% of spaces, but only empower black presidents for 28 days at Jackson. Also, this debate will be a debate about debate and the Wednesday relation to it and to the Black History Month during February. Anything else means that no fiat plan, no disadvantages, no critique of the plan, no representation without first honoring Black History Month. The judge instruction you've all engaged in traditional model debate, but I will do specific in judge instruction here. One, you vow you have historically engaged in the traditional model debate that wants to erase black history and critical engagement. Therefore, you should vote negative to recorrect against your biases and vote neg to show the text is open that black debaters, black history, and black science have a place in this space, in this resolution. Sherry and Jackie, y'all historically been some great ass white people, not gonna lie. Thank you for standing in solidarity for racist action and against racist action in our previous debates. And once again, I'm calling on you to serve white allies who engage in anti-racist activism by showing this tournament and debate community that you, as white people, do think that black debate and black history matters in this space. 2AC crossings was damning. I'm gonna do the slur over here. It said, Emory literally said that people support people who say slurs they should lose. Our argument is that John Streamus is a white person who refers to black people as blacks as bad because it dehumanizes them and shows that they're not human, which allows for violence to happen in per 2AC cross explanation. No new answer to reject the team. Crossing was binding. Anything else in the form of white fluidity that allows people and white people to escape judges of fluidity to cross white gender structure. Here, a couple arguments. One, tokenization. That's wrong. One, honoring is better. It's worse. They are worse because and they make them. Yeah, secondly, the procedural outweighed because not embrace them at all means that they get erased. Never talked about. They say cooperation, no, showing honoring shows people that they are appreciated. Also, impact her unfairness. They said the Alexander argument, they mischaracterized Alexander. Her criticism is of the squad way of the black history practice in time spaces that do not give the full experience that lack of diverse notion. Mean that the procedural solved this because her criticism about the ways in which black history is not talked about, which disavowed the educational structure. It means that the affluent turns this because their Alexander's criticism about the ways in which history right now in education systems do not talk about black history. The procedural link turns this because we encourage people to talk about black history, which means that the curriculum gets solved. There's, We literally solve this all. Insert we highlighting here. It's in yellow. I'm going to go down to, where is this thing? I have cards on shit. They said we can't solve urgency. One, if you think that they're right about CSU not being able to stop bans once in a while, your argument is that it's about the in here and how we align ourselves to combat black erasure in the spaces. It means that even if you don't think it can solve CRT ban, it's a form of solidarity in here. The perm one is not procedural, so it's not a critique or counter. Actually, it means that you can't permit. If so, it's severance and reject team. Treating this like a critique and anti-black and disavow the creative way black people innovate arguments in debate. Not all black arguments that people want to critique, but your ability to complain to is how gender treat the permutation of legitimate argument is a stereotype for a black baby being K kids, a common cycle technological violence to the system, they can never escape the categorization, tokenization. I did the work above. The case debate go to it now. One, disarmament is impossible. They mishandle this argument. Their evidence is about accidents, but does not account that the U.S. will build a secret arsenal post Avenue as nukes still exist, and they cannot solve fiat or unilateral cannot solve it because it's about the U.S. creating their own secret arsenal, not about any international fiat, but also possession of nukes is white supremacy that only the alternative can solve for. The next argument is going to be the back enough evidence. I'm going to extend it. Extinction rhetoric is racist. Drop that as embedding in rhetoric that homogenize struggle and erase the fact that white supremacy determines life before and after the bomb. We show that they erase black percent on the apocalypse to prove that extinction is not a way because we turn, and also the links above prove moments are bad. 1 year glorifying hell out movement. That's the Antony evidence. We cited most of the examples. Them saying white people will learn and form white civility allows them to escape accountability by saying I promise I will change just to continue holding power over marginalized community. You shouldn't risk that form of violence by voting for Emory instead. Just vote negative to return to chaos. The rearm argument one turn. Even if they win, disarm is possible. Disarm causes weapons to be recycled in a new one, and political guarantees will create new arm races. That's brought to issue what happens when all but by administration not to the 83 nuclear armor not destroy they are. Disassemble the capable made the budget like a giant safe within the nuclear information program. You need to go private code, get what you need. One of the weapons planning says it will cycle part of the W. United in the private mission, not that the weapon. Return to the margin of the weapons will be gang their previous test nuclear weapon not explosive one. The nuclear rocket will use one down another popular such recycling can fuel our raising nuclear proliferation in the hot center and growing nuclear arsenal is the only way to direct it right. Double nuclear armament and rearm does have in capacity and political tests. For 2023, any state with a nuclear capacity will reverse nuclear armament citizen to deliver NBT right to all parties develop nuclear and everything in the delegates military the culture and speech to the political audience and the ideology of society. And no sovereignty the US would retain the capacity to rearm. That's Permutation in Action 90. Even in nuclear state nuclear weapon raid, the conflict of values of agency I fail still by the scientists by the engineer the worker retain a nuclear head mounting organization will be inevitable posture to solve possibility to be able to represent them even the states trying to get back progress reorganization robust before being able to disarm nuclear states insist on retaining capacity to reconstitute arsenal desire the vulnerable levels likely then the even stronger democracy non-democracy the opposite the party the lobby agrees in democracy to challenge the government that any eliminate weapons.
Okay, we have 9:48 if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
Starting now.
just put here. Send me what you got. Why don't you do the these slides? So just take a look at that and see what you think is applicable. How do you want to answer this? Can I just say that the movement pressure one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dropped in these slogans, which says that historic places.
That does not answer your argument. That's fine. Well, it's in the one. Yes, it is. I promise. Don't worry about it.
It is tiny.
You can make that argument just like
I really left my eyes on. I have to wear glasses to read.
Yeah. Just start.
I kind of like the
Yeah.
page.
Specifically, okay.
It's all there.
I'm so indebted to people following
Yeah, I have cracked and I have their back.
I'm just like, how did I ever paper
Here, I can read a card.
And we learned how to do the computer thing. Probably should.
No, I feel like you're rocking on a computer.
Okay, I think you should craft whatever you feel most comfortable. Give me a 2 hour. So I can. I can read the 2 arguments. Just write the 3 arguments that I said. Okay. Okay. Non-interpretation. Okay. 2 is that it's bad. Bound is bound is right. Is bad. Columns the collapse. Those are different sensors. 3 is that it's a That's good.
Yeah, I get it.
The Hewitt stuff. Yeah, fair. It's the last thing though. Yeah, okay. That's 4:30.
Yeah.
There's 2 cards.
Okay.
Can you pass me this? While y'all are sitting down, the order is case procedural critique.
Excuse me.
We'll take 1 second to prep. Slack, not the document.
Oh, I can.
I got it. It's fine. I got it. Stop prep. Thank you. Is everyone good?
No, sorry, just a second.
You said case Black History Month critique.
Alien.
Vote up to endorse movements aimed at nuclear disarmament to impacts one nuclear imperialism in the U.S. arsenal and statements about use of buttress countless military interventions to sustain nuclear apartheid and ensures endless wars of aggression to its nation and nuclear history has been a jarring series of numerous accidents that cause millions of deaths and disproportionately impact communities of color. Follow-on effect is extinction, which outweighs if considered the patterson evidence any ontological status of the human requires. Life is a precondition, which means that any marginal difference between solvency of the alternative and the affirmative means that you should err. For us, there's no rearm. One is that the movements would pressure the United States to melt down all the arsenals because our arguments are about the danger of nuclear waste, etc. Two is that disarm means really completely get rid of Eglin 22 determined balls complete release of nuclear arsenal by state including physical dismantlement of all warheads and their means of delivery, which means the durable fiat solves the presentation of the threat of nuclear weapons is good. One, it cultivates a politics of vulnerability that propels alliances crucial to challenge nuclear weapon state sets. The coral evidence nuclear represents representing force that can move us beyond national boundaries and towards global solidarity. Two is that people do not want to think about nuclear war, but a sense of danger is the foundation of mobilization. Miesel says that the reason peace movements have fell off since the Cold War is because people stop feeling insecure. The extinction rhetoric, it's not racist. None of our 1AC presented arguments that did not foreclose the ability to for us to analyze structural violence. That's why we read a bunch of arguments about the structural history of nuclear weapons and have agreed with their frame that it's built on a structure of anti-blackness. So we do not glorify the 80s. We've used it as a heuristic and so that we can build off of the sort of movements that happened during the 80s to cause broader change. The procedural. They've conceded tie with the bottoms of the 2AC on the K. All of the lines in the 1NR that are about focus on what's happening in here obscures and trades off with the broader structures that make debate structurally unfair in the first place. We've impact turned the notion that the ballot should be a representative of identity of the debaters. It places a premium on putting identity on the line and makes judges the arbiters of identity, which ensures psychic violence. Their argument about why judges goes aft. Our argument is not that CSU is responsible for solving whiteness, but that their strategy should not be antithetical to making spaces safe for black debaters. It serves as an impact turned to a deadness and naming names. Of course, the black names they've listed deserve credit, but to trivialize their work and to exploit it for a ballot is counter to the aim of making debate a safer space. I'll answer the procedural here. Our interpretation is that debaters who endorse slurs should use. We do not link because we did not read nor highlight any part of the streaming evidence that says it. So do not endorse it. But one, framework proves you link loose standards of perfection are bad for both clash and fairness, which means that they must be framework to win this argument. The alternative should be to reject the card. Cross-text doesn't prove anything. Said it depends. Two is punishing pair bad. Using the ballot as a referendum on debaters is bad. And another round that is biased and carefully curated to win competitive game. Voting neg does not solve anything, but rejecting this card does. Three is a common sense term in the scholarship to ignore how black scholars refer themselves. Links back to every commodification argument they made made on the flow, and it's about the structural condition of being black. Now, the frame of Black History Month is bad to boil down the entirety of Black History Month to the shortest month of the year, referencing the same few individuals and only focusing on the last 60 years of history is demeaning and promotes white comfort in what should be uncomfortable conversations and ensures that the structural changes to educational systems and beyond get indefinitely delayed. That's Tracy Alexander. The article is titled, quote, "Let's Get Rid of Black History Month." It is not about specific practices. Rejection solves their offense, forcing institutions to confront their racist practices in place of papering it over with a single month of recognition, obviates the need to preserve a space for black recognition. The K. Framework and value of the app is an object of study, waiting that our project is desired should always be a sufficient condition for voting app, allowing the net to generate offense to anything we defend, and the one solves most of the blocks offense line. Or model is logically consistent with the real world debates. Only benefit comes from the exportability of the skills we practice. Having these skills outside debate whenever interpret opportunity costs away the net gets forwarded. Ideological investment determines whether courses of action are compatible. We agree fiat is illusory. It's a question of whether you should position yourself in favor of the U.S. Army against nuclear forces that produces revolutionary training. They do not need to preclude our ability to weigh the app in order to generate a training ground. Fairness is neutral and good. Debate structural unfairness is not a reason to mask to make debate more unfair. Ballot can solve, but it can preserve predictability. Now the permutation do both. Force the neck to explain their links in the context of why it makes the app project intrinsically in opposition to the alt. The James evidence just says that they use a different agent, which does not imply incompatibility. That does determine desirability. As for our framework interpretation, everyone gets perm. Something else tests methods, and drawing lines racially is a slippery slope. As for the arguments I made on the procedural, you should not vote neg to vote app. Picking out of individual debaters is a bad frame and puts judges as the arbiters of identity. Our interpretation is that you should violate the app as an object of study, which was above. The impact is fairness. You lose methods of debate are unfair and illogical. The neg can always shift goalposts to make the app offensive relevant. Political projects are self-reflexive unless their critique is of something intrinsic to the app. You shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It turns our education standard. If someone pointed out the line CSU has at a disarmament rally, you wouldn't send everyone home. You change the phrasing and move on. App choice does not solve. We only choose the intrinsic parts of the advocacy. Both sides get infinite prep and 1 year pressure overall and slash advantage. Air neg is wrong. Every 2A is literally drowning. Now we are impact turning to the logic of white saviorism, link rejecting performative acts to meet the demands of black and indigenous folks is bad politics. When Devota says that the app is a form of surrender, and that aligning with ourselves with disarm means that we work towards resolving historical aims. There's no link to the blood on the Pentagon arc. The Berrigan evidence says that there is a multiplicity of strategies, i.e. the throwing blood on the Pentagon would potentially be a form of resistance, but not one sufficient to make the U.S. disarm its nuclear forces, which brings me to the alt fails. One is that violence is a bad method because the state has a monopoly on the use of force, which was the DeVore evidence in the 2EC. There's no on-point answer to the 2NC, so any no to our arguments should be rejected. They don't have the ability to take the missiles out of the and demate the warheads, which means that you should prefer making pressures on the government too. It's Lakey says goal-oriented political projects are good. The idea that we should push ourselves towards cross coalitions and intersectional frames is good because it allows us to create the pragmatic reforms necessary to make abolition possible. There is no airbrush and link. Making demands on the state is crucial to the end goal of disarmament, which was the work I did above. It is non-reformist reform. Attachment to the goal of disarmament is good insofar as it puts us in line with revolutionary politics, which was above. There's no link to the Hewitt K. Our evidence is from a black man quoting him while his name was such. They have no evidence about him shifting his opinion on coalitions. We agree that U.S. nukes are built on anti-blackness, but our argument is that you need a goal-oriented politics of disarmament in order to solve the terror argument is solved by the app. We create the structural conditions that made terror impossible. The U.S. solves conventional overstress. That's when you see Gerson without backing conventional attacks. With the threat of nuclear weapons, the U.S. would be unable to conduct operations in the Middle East, which solves the structural conditions. The truth is a defense with slander argument. They have not contested the frame that terrorists could access nuclear arsenals, which means that there was no threat inflation. Now we've impact turned their simplistic reading of coalition buildings. Interracial organizing spaces are not perfect, but they are necessary in the face of nuclear weapons. That's a 2C Hewitt evidence. Absent coalitions, the movements are doomed to failure based on sheer numbers and the impetus of interconnectivity and social organization. The neg has pointed out undeniable examples of exclusion in social movements, but for every bad moment there are certainly good ones too. Exclusion is not inevitability of interracial organizing, but rather something we should consider when planning tactics, and the permutation puts that consideration at the forefront.
The voter on that card.
What was the voter on that card?
Oh, the dead naming argument I answered about. We quoted him when that was his name, so it's not dead naming him.
810.
Yeah, I got it.
Save your money or something.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's not much there.
I don't care. Save it. In your clothes.
Okay. They're both saved. I didn't read the voting card because they dropped.
I know.
Yeah. In the event that it's, I think so. I think that.
I think we do need to change our framework.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Which
Here, I'll just select both.
You saved it to your desktop.
Okay, I will send those to you. Like meat and potatoes? Really? Seriously? Okay, fine.
got you with like a minute.
Can you get the order? I have to use the bathroom.
You're good. I'm gonna go too.
Are you going out? Can you
Yeah, I have to use the bathroom.
send Jackie in?
Torchies.
Sorry, finding that room where the tacos were took a lot longer than I thought.
Wait, there are tacos?
I think Mason has.
Sorry, that was like, super invasive. Just like
No, I just feel bad because there are tacos.
don't tell me, please.
They're my tacos. But honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you, Curtis, like, I'm probably not gonna want the second one. So like if you want it.
No pressure.
This is a temp.
Yeah, of course.
What is that word for maybe, maybe not? It depends on how I feel. If I don't want it, like it's a conditional.
Yeah.
Yeah. Conditional upon how hungry I feel.
That makes sense. To be decided tacos, fine with that, no pressure. If you finish them, it's all good.
There we go.
I just learned that since this debate's for Taylor Swift announced a new album.
Oh my gosh, that's all I've heard from Anna Bittner for the past like
I'm so dead. Oh my god.
She won't leave me alone, and I'm like, I don't care.
I think their Instagram stories are exclusively Taylor Swift content.
Yeah, no, and do you know Anna Bittner is now a Chiefs fan?
Because of
Yes.
yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Knows nothing about football.
See, at least Grace is from
She learned
Kansas.
what to be a witness today.
This is gonna have to get weird.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a cannot hear this section on the video.
Oh, is this being recorded?
Yeah.
Technically, yes.
We'll cut out the Anna Bittner part.
No, it's okay. I would say this to her face.
Ooh, okay. I gotta stop instigating.
I'm still gonna cut it out because it is gonna go public.
Oh
So-
yeah, please cut it out.
On second thought,
Oh, this is getting posted?
I will happily stand by my excitement about the new Taylor Swift album.
that's right.
I'm not.
Stand on business. That's
I'm
right.
not trying to poop on anyone's parade, but wait, I mixed metaphors there, didn't I?
Yeah, you
Poop
really
on
did.
somebody.
In a very weird way.
Rain on parade.
Not the poop on your parade.
Poop on
but-
party, rain on parade.
I mean, for what it's worth, poop on a parade would also be
Yeah,
that would
Yeah,
also be bad.
that might be
Like,
worse.
that
That
sucks,
actually
dude.
might be worse.
I'm gonna stand back. I'm doubling down. It's a good metaphor.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Oh, mine's charged. If you want to plug it in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I might have to like.
You can, or if you can move and sit here, we can unplug.
Honestly, the easiest thing to do, and I actually don't mind at all, is just I'm gonna sit right here.
I'm such a
You
floor
can grab
person.
that chair.
We're good.
If I could debate from the floor, I'd be top speed.
You could. Like, no one's stopping you. Like, the floor is there in every
Okay,
room.
Let me rephrase. If people accepted that it's there, like if it was socially acceptable.
Who in their paradigm? Huh?
I don't think anyone would, like, give you shit for it.
Like who's in the paradigm? Like you cannot debate while sitting on the floor.
I don't know.
25.
You all are actually really convincing.
No, I'm
me.
gonna.
Yeah,
No,
you
I'm
should
very
go for it.
familiar with the
I think
Emory
you should go
floors,
for it.
so-
Oh wait, is Jackie gonna?
I have no other option right now. Like
Okay.
I've committed to this.
I figured out
We're
what
still
it's
waiting.
Bella is not back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sitting on the floor is for the plot. Okay.
Yeah.
It's for the plot, guys.
Okay. I assume you don't have anything you're sending out.
No.
Or would have already been scrapped?
Did I miss an order?
No.
Okay,
It's, critique, Black History Month case. Before I start the document that's like for the Twitter, I'm gonna save it really quick because if it crashes, I'm gonna lose everything.
I gave my 1 AR on an unsaved document. So.
Alright, Curtis, are you good?
Yeah.
Emory? Alright, sure you're good. Alright.
Framing issue you have to answer in this debate is who has a better reading of abolition in the context of black liberation. Every single form of abolition stems from the work that black people have done. The threshold to vote negative is not about whether or not the link turns case, but whether or not they have read black studies correctly. It was a conceded framing issue that came out of the 20th. Any form of solvency that comes from a misinformation of black scholarship turns all of the coalition arguments means abolition movements become racially exclusive and lead to serial policy failure because our trauma and evidence says that reformist approaches uphold the same U.S. liberal order that reproduces violence. We have a couple uniqueness questions for why this threshold is urgent. One, it is Black History Month, which means it's just set the threshold very low. And second, they've read abolition, and this is one of the most specific abolition versus abolition debates you will judge across the season framework. Our interpretation is the winning season research object who should be held accountable for its epistemic political investments and the consequences of it. Drop that fiat is illusory or conceded it, which means that nothing happens when you vote affirmative, which means it's better to examine our relations to the literature we read. Drop that it creates a form of revolutionary class where we examine our subjectivities and become better people. Advocacies get distorted according to the reasons for why we bring the advocacy up in the first place, i.e. disarm for reformism is different from disarm for abolition, which means that therefore Matilo's focus debate is bad because it avoids these intricacies. Drop that it is fair because by definition we have infinite preps to understand our embodiments of the literature we read, and any claim of unfairness is resolved by prepping after the round. And drop that the foundation of debate is unfair to black and native subjectivity, which means that you should refuse their traditional interpretation of debate. The permutation one, they drop that it is that the method is functionally competitive. We some people is not the United States, and it challenges white exclusion because the United States is fundamentally founded on a racial contract through the Constitution that excluded everybody who was not white and not property owning. But even if you don't think that is enough to reject the permutation on base, every single link is a dissent to the permutation, and the alternative is a pig that solves the entirety of the case and avoids every link argument that turns the case. Before I do pigs bad first, the alternative is to return to the sources to recalibrate the winning season advocacy to be from the U.S. to we some people. This surrenders non-black people to the chaos of black embodiment and the demands of black studies. It solves the affirmative because the internal links for abolition to be successful as coalitions, and the Twin C explanation of empathy is way more specific than the 1AR, i.e. drop the examples of Vincent Intani, Stefano Harney, even to people like Stan and Gustafson. This is a vote negative to vote after argument. Extend the academic abolition link because they mishandled the call for the balance of former desirability, i.e. the idea that the winning season has responded to the calls of people on the ground in a correct manner is wrong. It is a savior logic that mirrors how non-black people engage studies are motivated by academic capital to make black studies better or better. I think that they are finally the ones to make the correct linkage between abolition in theory and abolition in action, i.e. when you are asked to make a master's program or a 1AC in the context of being non-black in Africana studies or trying to write an aphorism of black debaters, you are asked to present a novel thesis that finds a new exciting approach, or you are asked to cut an app that immediately answers pessimism. This academic position is a savior mentality that makes them think, look at me, I'm good for black life, which hides the malicious intent behind all of this to try and be the savior of black people. Voting negative stops that. Whatever vagueness or questions you have about the alternative, that is the point. It is opaque but clear enough to let you know what your role is, to surrender and stop asking questions so you can let people like 1NC Trauman, James, and King lead the way to articulate what abolition looked like. Not reform, but instead war. That means that me voting next to vote out solves because short circuit is the logic being affirmative, which solves all of the academically link argument. The pigs bad theory arguments, they have dropped every standard for why pigs are good and only extended theirs, which means our standards outweigh one. Real world scholarship, academics and academics have slant disagreements with one another all the time. Pigs are pedagogically useful because they force in-depth theorizing on critical scholarship where prepare students for college grad school to be engaged activists that accesses exportability better than their framework and forces better debates because of argument innovation. Second, drop all defense for why fairness is not impact intentional. When you see writing for the right and infinite prep solves the abs offense, the 1NC arguments for why pigs are bad are new and to reject on phase one. We do not police identity, but policing the reading of abolition scholarship is good for accountability because it's key to ethical subject formation, because if you're really down with the movement, you will realize how you fucked up in this round and refine it with your break on Monday. Second, no shifting the goalposts. They have dropped that we have the most accurate reading of abolition as war instead of abolition as reformism. We have a heavy link argument. The K is not a petty throwdown, it is a real disagreement. Extend the link here. The Twin C's understanding of abolition is based on a non-reformist reform ID, i.e. the idea that we can hold policymakers accountable by demanding reductions via state demands, and that we need to create proper linkages to convince the least to come to our side. This is a professionalization that erases the roots of abolition, i.e. Black Panthers holding shootouts, slavery, abolition, etc. Our James 20 evidence gives the example of former Panthers. Their version of abolition is worse. Remember Remember, the 1 year's pivot to durable fiat on case, but then said fiat is illusory on the critique. This is pedagogically useless. How do you learn to form abolition movements if you just durably fiat the process, but then position yourself as white saviors when you say fiat is illusory on this flow? This is a form of double speak in the 1 year that is material proof of the type of abolition they offer. It's one that is not clear, it is vague, and results in nothing. Every example we gave solves the The Black Panthers and their militancy caused inspiration of other movements like the Young Lords, which won representation locally in each chapter, created school and lunch programs, and materially combated violence while their stuff only stays in here. I brushed off the Twiggsy evidence because it's terrible. It just says this isn't Cuba. We know, but we struggle via militancy nonetheless, because as the call that Black Studies makes upon us and to try and reform it in any way is anti-Black. The affirmative only continues this logic because the most reformist abolition sustains white liberal hegemony and sidelines working class revolutionaries who are champion abolition better than Davis. Not going to go for the Hugh evidence as an independent reason to reject the team, but remember, it is not about just you detonating them, but specifically referring to them as Carmichael instead of Kwame Ture shows the professionalization, because Ture is the abolitionist, whilst Carmichael is the reformist. The AFIS surrender argument. This is a completely vague argument. It is already answered by the internal link towards the subject formation I did above and through the alternative, the procedural deference bad at the top. I already answered this. They say they have impact to earn the names because we shouldn't trivialize people. If I win a link on the critique, then it means that you have misread and trivialized real abolitionist politics, which means this is a turn against them. They say they're afraid that the Alexander evidence is bad. No, Alexander votes negative, but I don't need to win that argument in order to win this debate. Go to case now. Extinction is racist. Drop that it's embedded in rhetoric that homogenizes struggle and erases the fact that white supremacy determines life before and after the bomb, which shows they erase Black perspectives on the apocalypse, which proves our links on both flows and proves their performance is devoid from perspectives of the Black abolitionists they claim to be building off of. No 2AR can go for durable fiat solves any arguments because they have not only conceded conventional shift is different from nuclearism, but also they have said fiat is illusory on the critique, which means this is not a debate about material 1AC solvency, but instead about their ethical commitments to a correct reading of abolitionist politics, which we have impacts on, and we have a better reading of abolition in the first place.
Can I have the time?
4:24.
Yeah. 4, starting.
What is it?
These are siblings. They are totally bound to each other. If they're separated for more than 12 minutes. Unless they've really never been separated.
This is my baby.
Oh, now we're Max in the picture too. He just kind of living into the floor.
Oh, yeah, there he is.
What a cutie.
Hey Curtis, want the taco?
Yes, please. I will come get it. You don't have to get it.
I'm combining them. Just trust.
Do you not like it? Wait, we have to talk about it.
Well, I asked for no cilantro.
Ooh, I love cilantro. Ooh.
It's their Christmas present.
So it's scary.
Ooh, fun. They really like it. They just sit there and ball around.
It's not this, like, it's like a little.
I'm just rearranging my docs. Sorry, I have like 50 open.
Is anybody not done?
Did you give an order?
Case in the K. Vote of 10 or support these years directly towards nuclear disarmament. Just read Black Studies correctly. The alt fails, which is a distinction with a difference because their form of abolition can never lead to disarmament of nuclear weapons, which should be at the forefront of this debate. The 2 arts no defense case, which means you can vote purely on the impact of nukes existing on waves. Only one has prevented nuclear deterrence for breaking down the nukes, humanity deaths for nuclear annihilation, radiation poison, mutilation, menstrual black working class prescription is good, but explicitly ignore those who want to work through the state. If you think there are people who want both strategies, you vote for the perm to combine them. Answer both calls, because there is no one way to approach black studies.
Good debate. Yeah, great debate, y'all. Is anybody like itching for a card back? Okay. Okay.
That I should prefer the alternative and the PIC specific, like the PIC as a mechanism for an approach to abolition and disarm that is less likely to cause the kind of like, less likely to reinforce liberal violence, less likely to sort of get kind of rolled back, which I think the AF not necessarily like gets rolled back, but it's like if your argument is like, the AF's sort of good starting point is the way that we solve like all of the bad shit that could happen as a result of, the sort of, professionalization of abolition and the like reinforcing and sort of airbrushing of those movements as a mechanism for making the state sort of stronger and better. Like I'm not really sure why the AF is necessarily a preferable mechanism. I think I spent a fair amount of time thinking about the feasibility of the alternative. But I ultimately concluded that because I'm not sure that the AF solves as well as I think you necessarily need to, because I think that the link turns some of this, that I think that I sort of feel comfortable thinking that an approach that tries to engage in abolitionist disarm without the sort of approach of the AF is better, and I think it's better both than the AF and than the permutation.
I can go. I'm just reading verbatim because I'm tired and I think it'll make more sense. This debate was excellent. I'm going to be upfront and say I'm at the point in my career where I do not enjoy judging debates anymore. But this round made me genuinely excited to flow every single speech, listen to every single excellent cross-ex, and wait to see how the arguments unfolded. So thank you for the privilege of watching this round. I'm sad this is a doubles debate. The caliber of this was finals worthy. With that being said, I voted negative on centering a more accurate reading of revolutionary knowledge production concerning anti-nuclear advocacy. I think the affirmative needed to be an absolute crush on the framework and PIC's bad debate in the 2AR to be able to jettison epistemology link arguments by the negative, which I believe both turn case and have an external impact of white saviorism logics that cement anti-black knowledge production. My issue in the 2AR with the framework debate is it felt like an extension of fairness under the assumption that fairness was dropped, and there was no clash with the education standards of the negative, so I thought the negatives' conceded defense against fairness made their framework offense outweigh. The answers I had to fairness that I didn't think were responded to. Unfairness allows debaters to prep at home after the debate and beat it the next time. This argument is at the heart of the literature document, so it should have been one that the affirmative can debate. And finally, infinite prep means the app can always prepare. While none of these are slayers, I think they are each small cuts on the fairness debate that make me highly persuaded that the negative's criticism promotes more in-depth debates over the epistemological intricacies of disarm and abolition, that refusing the criticism makes this year's topic infinitely worse. I think those arguments go unresponded to. I think they're impacted out with some really good exportability arguments concerning how slight disagreements in scholarship promote a better advocate training ground, preparing for grad school and the such. In comparison, I think the fairness extension for what became a blended framework in Pick's bad debate largely centered around you co-opted our app, which I found less compelling. Speaking of co-option, the link argument I centered my decision around is the white saviorism argument I explained or referenced above. The two errors spends little to no time in the link debate, so I give them full weight. I do think the affirmative's non-reformist reform is an epistemological whitewashing tactic of black revolutionary activism around nuclear weapons that allows for a few things. First, white intellectuals co-opt black scholarship for their own personal academic journey, changing the intricacies of black scholarship to create a quote novel's master's thesis and such, all while divesting from the radical tradition. Second, non-reformist reform sutures white coalition building tactics that ensure a self-fulfilling prophecy of the white liberal order. I think that operates as the case turned, making a large amount of the quote disarm key to solve nuclear use framing of the affirmative difficult for me to evaluate. Beyond that, I have a genuine difficulty understanding the strategy of the AF and the 2ER. We have agreed fiat is illusory. I don't know what my ballot structure is with that in mind. Like, what does the affirmative accomplish by reading the AF? What does my ballot do in supporting it? I have a lot of args by the negative about how that support spills out in negatively epistemological ways, but I don't have the counter argument about how the knowledge production here generates true change in the nuclear infrastructure, only that it cements a co-option of the black intellectual tradition. In short, I believe the only way you can do this is if you're crushing your epistemological defense of the 1EC, and I don't think that's happening because of what I explained above.
Yeah, I think that a lot of your framework and a lot of your arguments for why you should win the round sort of depend on you winning solvency. Your justification for why your advocacy is better than their advocacy is you get disarmed and they don't get disarmed. And I don't really understand, or I don't think you win that argument given the fiat arguments in here. I mean, you grant the argument on the K that there's no fiat, but then you answer the very good solvency cards that they read on the case that durable fiat solves that. When you realize that there's a problem with that and you try to get out of it in the 2AR, I don't really follow what all the arguments were that I had trouble understanding what your new justification for solvency was, just that you didn't want to hear that I was going to vote on that. Well, sorry, but I am, because I thought their cards were good and I don't really know what your explanation or your answer is. And so it's kind of like this debate is occurring at two different levels, and each side sort of means something different by solvency and what it is that they think the advantage of their advocacy is. You say that your advocacy should win because your advocacy solves disarm. They say that their advocacy should win because their advocacy is a better way to approach abolitionism, and they have a lot, all of their link arguments about whites should not speak for blacks and appropriation of black scholarship and those sorts of things are their reasons why they think that their scholarship or advocacy is better. And I just don't think I don't think a lot, especially in the 2AR, I don't think a lot of the focus in the 2AR is really clashing with that. I think every time they've made that argument, you're answering it with reasons why disarm can only happen through the state, so advocating state action is better. But there isn't, but they're winning that there's not going to be effective disarm, so I don't understand how that can be a justification for your advocacy as being better than theirs. So then the only question is, just sort of whose advocacy, who speaks better about abolitionism. And so the first thing you have to decide is, do you have to choose between the two? So, going to your permutation. And I don't really think that you're answering the permutation answers that they're making. They've read a piece of evidence that says that you have to make a choice and that it's competitive. And they've explained in cross-X you can't both work through the state and work against the state. You can't be bottom up and top down at the same time. And if you can, you need to sort of explain at some point how that is. I mean, at the end you just say, yes, we should have everything. We should try all the strategies. But they've argued that those strategies can't coexist, and you don't really have an explanation for how they do coexist. And then he's also made the argument in both speeches, that every link argument that he extends is a dissat to the permutation. And I just think those answers, you kind of keep extending the story you want to make on permutation. It's not just you, it's also the 1AR. You all are extending your position on the permutation without specifically addressing, in my mind at least, I think the answers that they're making against it. And so, and you spend a lot of time on the alt fails. Well, it fails at what? It fails at getting, it fails at getting better scholarship, or it fails at getting disarm. It seems like most of the arguments that you're making are reasons why it fails at getting disarm. But they're winning that you don't get disarm either, so I don't really understand. I don't think that you have any arguments that the alt fails at what it is that they say the role of the ballot should be, which is speaking, the team that speaks better about abolitionism. Yeah, and I wasn't really sure what the point of extending the framework debate is when you grant no fiat and then don't engage with their arguments that no fiat means, I mean, you're just like the desirability of the F. Why is the F desirable if there's no fiat? And they've said that that means that there's, you don't get to claim what you're claiming there. And there's solvency arguments against it that, that I started off with answering that haven't really been specifically answered. And so if that's correct, what exactly is I didn't really understand why the framework was in the 2AR without addressing this sort of, contradiction in the fiat position. And then, this finally, you say several times, both of you guys don't vote neg to vote AF. I don't think they're saying vote neg to vote AF. I think they're saying vote neg to decide whether or not that's what we need to do. Like, we can't go into this with a precondition. That's the whole kind of bottom up versus top down thing. We can't go into this already knowing what the answer is. We need to embrace chaos, embrace different voices, and actually listen to what those voices say. And maybe that needs to be done through a violent means. Maybe that needs to be done through nonviolence. Maybe that needs to be done through the state. Maybe that means we have to, go chain ourselves to nuclear silos. We don't know what that is, but their argument, I don't really perceive that they're saying, when they say we some people advocate disarmament, I don't think that they're necessarily advocating the same thing you mean by the U.S. federal government does disarmament. And so, and I guess that's it.
I thought there was a pretty significant disconnect between the 1AR and 2AR strategies that I think probably made this debate really hard for you to win. I think the 1AR is much more focused on trying to win that your model of abolition, your scholarship is good, that it's exportable, and all of those sort of things. And the 2AR is obviously more focused on framework, and the fairness stuff, which obviously has already been discussed. But on top of that, the other thing I think that's hard and frustrating about the 1AR and 2AR in this debate is your answer to a bunch of the link arguments is not, for example, you keep answering the airbrushing link by being well, we're a non-reformist reform, and they're that's the problem, right? Their link argument is non-reformist reforms are bad and they are not actually non-reformist, right? You need to explain why the AF's approach isn't the type of non-reformist reform that the neg is criticizing, and it just sort of feels like there's a little bit of disconnect between how you're answering the link arguments and sort of you have you have the evidence set in the 1EC, I think, to explain why the AF is a potentially why non-reformist reforms are, even if not good, maybe structurally necessary in some instances, and that we can't sort of completely refuse to engage them even if they're imperfect. And I think that just kind of ends up not being a big part of the debate, even though I think your AF is sort of set up very well to go that direction. And so I think maybe kind of revisiting what you want the 2AR to look like before the 1AR, and kind of making sure that you two are on the same page in terms of what the 1AR strategy is going to be, so that way you have a better idea of how you want to set up the 2AR, because it just kind of felt like they were just like almost like speeches in totally different debates. Other thing I was gonna say, the 2NC is really, really good, but you're like a little too quick on the framework debate, and not like you're too fast in that you're like saying, like, I can understand all the words you're saying, but you're not giving me like enough time to write everything down, kind of differentiating when you move from one argument to the next. And so I think just kind of giving like a little bit of a beat, or even like numbering arguments. I don't write down the numbers, but at least it gives you an idea of like when you're transitioning from one argument to the next. And I think just, or, you know, giving each component like a very clear like 1 or 2 word, like this is the sort of thesis argument, and then explain it, so I know kind of have a better idea of what to write down, because I find myself in listening to the 2NC having to like listen to what you've said, process it, and then figure out what to write down. And I want you to give me a better sort of, you know, a flag for what I should start writing, and then I can kind of fill in the gaps after that, versus like I feel like there were a lot of parts of the 2NC I just didn't get on my flow, even though I heard and understood them and like processed them. So just something, just like a stylistic thing that I think will make your 2NCs a little bit easier to flow.
And I had one piece of advice for the 2NR. I think that you got away from the specific examples of what the differences were in strategy, like violence versus non-violence, and the whole Stokey Carmichael story. All of that was really, really persuasive and understandable, and kind of turned light bulbs on in my head about what the argument was in the 2NC. And then none of that is really kind of specifically repeated in the 2NR. And that, you know, that I think, whether they want to embrace the Martin Luther King side of Black revolutionary struggle, and you're sort of wanting to, you know, for simplistic sakes, embrace the Malcolm X side, you know, and put it in those kinds of terms will help understand like why the perm doesn't make sense and why there is a competitive choice between the two. And I thought you kind of let that, just wasn't really getting extended in the last speech, and I think that's a pretty important part of your criticism. It needs to be there.
Did y'all have any questions?
I don't have anything at the moment.
I guess.
Wait, Reed, do you have any?
You go first. I'm still cooking.
He's thinking. You can go.
Okay, my question is really short. I saw like when I was like answering the Alexandria evidence, like I saw like Jackie, you seemed a little confused. I think like I kind of messed up the wording just because like when I was reading it like on my doc, like I think the way it, like that I was reading it just like didn't make sense to me. Other than that blip, just like act like that moment didn't happen in the 1NR. Do you think the rest of the 1NR was fine? Do you think that like there are arguments that could have been taken out or replaced just strategically?
I would have loved a little bit more line by line faith.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because I think that there's some stuff that was going on in the 2AC on the Black History Month page that was like pretty woefully undercovered in the 1NR. That could be blown up, and they were all like analytics, but ones that like kind of made logical sense to me.
Yeah.
So like I would have liked a little bit more time on this like tokenization fungibility argument, just because like okay, like I'll just give you gut reaction when you read this 1NC, and I'm just like, why is it that the only people that are referenced are like people that we identify as super successful like Black coaches and Black debaters? Like why are they the only Black people that deserve to be honored by name, and the rest kind of get names? So then when they're saying like tokenization, I'm like, yeah, like this kind of makes a little bit of sense to me. So I think like that's stuff where maybe if there's a gut react that someone might have a little bit more time there. Mm-hmm. And then like they have this like Texas centering bad argument that was like the last line in the 2AC, and like you just don't answer it like at all. And I thought the argument there was really good because like they make an argument about how like lynching happened everywhere. Why are we just thinking about Texas? Like literally went to school in Lynchburg, Virginia. So
yeah, and I think you need to have a better answer to the evidence that says that Black History Month is counterproductive.
Yeah.
That argument was really good, and that card makes a lot of sense. And I'm not really, I know you're saying stuff, I'm not saying it's strong, but I can't tell you what I think.
You have answers to it.
I can't tell you what I know.
No, yeah, it's just like I had the answer. Yeah. Just like I think like got lost in translation. And I didn't want to like spend too much time in the speech breaking it down for myself before I did it. So it's like.
Well, and I think that's their best answer. So
I
gotta know what your answer to that is. You know?
The other thing I was gonna say is, I thought it was fairly obvious in the 2AC that after the 2AC that like the 1AR was going to do the thing where they like cross applied the like Taiwo stuff from the K, and I felt like that was something that it would have been helpful to kind of preempt in the 1AR. Just like they're going to cross apply this like deference epistemology stuff from the K. Here is our answer to it. Just because it to me it felt like a fairly obvious 1AR cross application.
Yeah. I will give credit where credit is due though. Like there were other moments of this 1AR that I really liked, like which I think started with 2AC cross-ex about like the rhetoric stuff. Like I think we need a better 2AC cross-ex answer, and I won't like spend too much time there. But I thought like that was like a new kind of nuance on the 1AR positions that was like a cool addition to like make things a little bit more complicated.
Well, and at least for me, reading the three solvency cards at the end was very important.
Oh yeah.
No, definitely.
That was very important.
Because that's the other thing too, it is that like their best argument for why the alt fails is just like it is difficult for like the state or for like revolutionary non-violent non-state actors to like do anything to change how the state acts. And it's like if you have solvency arguments that like they don't access maybe full solvency for the AF, it makes it a lot easier. And that's sort of like I mean that's effectively what I voted on was just like I think that there is a sufficient solvency takeout plus link turns case arguments for me to think that like the potential problems that might exist with the alternative are not sufficient enough for me to reject it in favor of the AF or the Perm. And so I think kind of, thinking a little bit more about how those things, like it's like the 2NR, and even like in the 2NR, it's like you sort of are making these connections, but I think having like a more clear, just like this, if you think these solvency arguments are true, these are reasons why you should not be concerned about the sort of like disadds to the alternative.
Okay, that's my only question. I appreciate it though. Thank you for feedback.
I'm good too. Thank you all for looking.
Okay, and CSU, I don't know how long I'm gonna talk, so feel free to leave whenever because I know y'all are debating in the morning.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good debate, y'all.
Yeah, great debate. Good luck tomorrow. And congrats on this report. Okay. Framework.
Oh yeah, also, sorry, I didn't go to the awards ceremony, I just looked at the awards. Congrats. How did you do the awards?
We jettisoned the 1AR. Let's imagine.
Yes.
It's gone. Do you think that the 1AR is doing enough, at least strategically, even if the arguments individually are not there, because I'll get to that in a second, to just be able to say concede, we are defending the practice of making demands on the state.
Yes.
I will have a better.
I would love that.
No, that's exactly what I was.
Because I think it also cleans up the debate so much. That you don't have more moving parts, and it just is so much simpler to just defend it.
The rest of the 1AR is basically just assuming we're losing framework anyway.
Yes, exactly. Which I thought, like, the link defense in the 1AR that you were playing on some of these, like, kind of satellite rhetoric criticisms, etc., was, like, really, it was good. Like,
I thought the 1AR was, like, really exceptional.
Yes. It's just, I think if you jettison that, you get more time. That gives you time also to kind of flag when you're on the, like, non-conformist reform debate. Just be like, we are impact turning this link. I'll do that debate here, like, big time. I think that's really good.
And then, then the way we get out of the pick is just be like, hold them to the 1NC cross-ex explanation. There are material differences between the way that the alternative operates and the way that the AF operates, and we are going for a solvency deficit / an impact turn to the difference.
Yeah, and like the one thing that I would say in that world is just like the like kind of academic usage, like that argument that I was talking about with the white saviorism stuff, lines of analysis that would have been really helpful for me that are outside just the like the type of thing that we have said is a good idea was good knowledge, but rather like how does that get exported by white people.
So then that kind of the last framework adjacent question is what fiat illusory means. Because, I mean, intuitively, this AF is set up to not have to durably fiat anything. Do you think that an explanation in the 1AR that's just like, framework, kick it, this is a strategy session, here are the reasons, like we have Atkinson, we have Lakey, that are like, here are the reasons why the way that we have forwarded disarmament politics is desirable, which answers fiat illusory, because I guess the part that I'm struggling with is like, if we do that, what is our answer to the rearmament stuff?
That's my question. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Which is why
but you need to figure that out.
Well, yeah, I'm
definitely.
kind of asking for help.
They're
So-
making some knowledge production exportability arguments with the way that we like produce articles, etc. They get recited, all of those sort of things, talking about that how they have some sort of like parametered connection to like the political.
Right. Yeah.
I think just like use those lines of flight that they've had.
But why does that solve the U.S. being able to stockpile its weapons
I
and
think
then
it's the
rearm
question of
later?
the generation of like macro political demand that you could
Okay.
say then spills up to actual
Okay.
changes. Like the typical A2
I mean,
fiat
you could
card.
also just try to use the example of the few states that have gotten rid of their nuclear weapons,
South
like
Africa.
Libya and South Africa, and they just got to a point where the people said, we think we're better off without these. And yeah, they could at any time go back. None of them have, even Libya, who's in a not very, safe part of the world. And so the enduring nature of the countries that have successfully disarmed might be
Can you write down
an
that
answer.
for me?
Especially since both of those really did kind of seem to be driven somewhat by
Right.
citizen demands.
Exactly.
And the economics of
Yeah.
infrastructure alone.
I think
Yeah.
I'll just add it, and I think maybe like in part I think it's my thoughts are very different in that like I am a much better judge for the like we're gonna go for framework and get to defend the plan.
Yeah, we did not really expect you to be on this panel.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair.
No offense, like.
And it's really just like and in that instance too, that does it's just so important to get to be like we get these like we get to weigh the impacts of the case. I just like it's so hard for me to conceive of even why like the app why the app would be a good idea if like we weren't at least debating about like what a hypothetical world of disarm looks like, even if it's not like means no K's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think what Jackie was saying is kind of our is kind of the answer to that, which is like conceding their knowledge production claims, and that debate is a space where you can affirm an orientation towards political
But
activism.
also, they talk about how we just have to think through the way our epistemologies are shaped. And
Right.
like,
Yeah.
if we have said governance good and we win that epistemological claim, I think like though this harkens back to like I think Val, you were the one that said this. It's more there was distinctions between 1AR and 2AR of strategy. And I just think you need to buckle in and pick one.
No, I'm with you.
So I think framework would have been fine. It's just like you just got to buckle in and pick it, right? Like, and I just don't think either was being picked effectively, if that makes sense.
Okay. And then sort of like the meat and potatoes of the debate, I think the white saviorism stuff I feel fine on, but the airbrushing stuff, it seemed like for both Val and Sherry, this was kind of like you didn't think we were getting the point.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I think that, and I sort of said this before, but it's like I think the problem is that you're getting to like level one of like the AF is a non-reformist reform and therefore is not the exact thing they are criticizing, but like you're not getting to the like non-reformist reforms are good and like an important tool in the activist box. You know what I mean? That like we can't just eschew demands on the state even if they're imperfect, even if they, may have some, they may, do some sort of whitewashing or, airbrushing of, the radical tradition of abolition, that the reason that radical tradition of abolition didn't work is because it didn't make demands on the state, right? And that, like, the ability to couple the, the AF's approach to abolition with the recognition that some limited instances of reform are good and necessary, even if they are not perfect, because they allow us to prevent like massive forms of violence that are outweigh the the fact that there's like maybe some like residual whitewashing that of the liberal state or whatever that happens as a result of the plan. Like the fact that we prevent the possibility of like nuclear annihilation should probably come first.
Yeah, so that like the 2NC flow that I have here is like pragmatism is built on reformist reform, which does not solve black suffering, which I think is the argument you just made, which is like, yes, it does. If we win, we have a better strategy for counteracting nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
And then the sort of like people attaching abolition to revolution as a form of counterinsurgency, I think that argument is just like, it begs the question of whether or not the mode of the starting point for politics is good. And I think we can just be like, you should not return to the political orientation of Frantz Fanon because he didn't, nothing of that what he prescribes changes the nuclear infrastructure.
And then I think really that also like then I think dovetails with your like revolutionary violence fails.
Yeah, I agree.
Stuff, which is like sort of a floating disad to the alternative that like doesn't really, it's like hard for me to really figure out what to do with at the end of the debate. But I think if you combine that with like, this is why like the purest politics of the alternative will always inevitably fail, and that, the limited degree to which there is a link, which sure, there probably is one, that it is outweighed by the ability to make actual change that will never be the outcome of the alternative, no matter how hard they try, no matter how much they want it, no matter how much revolutionary violence happens, like it will never result in disarm in the way that making demands on the state does.
Okay, and then that sort of gets to the last thing, which is just like you should sacrifice your understanding of the world and surrender, and that surrender, if it results in the alternative, is bad, and so we have a deficit, plus coalition's good means that the app is a form of surrender. Does that check? That makes sense?
Yeah.
I was like workshopping this idea in my head because a lot of the examples that they were giving out, they were just like the type of revolution we're building breeds other types of revolutions, and what they were insinuating sounded like those could be political ones in some of the examples they were giving. So that could be maybe like a defensive arc,
or
just
perm.
like like a permutation, like the alt does this too, like reform is reform inevitable under any type of model of revolution because the state is inevitable.
Okay, and then the very last thing is like, we say framework in the 2AC basically just to get rid of Texas picking out of a word, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We think that it should almost always be jettisoned given the way that this 1AC is structured. Okay. I think that's all I have.
Yeah. Congrats on a great tournament.
Thank you.